Hello, fellow homebrewers. JP here, and I want to introduce to you the brand new Brewbuilt X1 Conical Series available at More Beer. More Beer sells the highest standard in homebrewing equipment, and the Brewbuilt Conicals are just that. They're made from mirror-polished 304 stainless steel, and they come with loads of features that you and I have been looking for. They have a full 2-inch bottom dump valve, which will eliminate your clogging issues, while the sturdy base includes 4 reinforced legs, just like those big Pro tanks do. More Beer also carries the Brewbuilt line of options and add-ons like casters, pressure kits, and even external glycol chillers. So you can find out more about the new Brewbuilt X1 Conical Unitanks by going over to morebeer.com for detailed videos on the entire line of Brewbuilt Conicals. You can trust Brewbuilt with your next fermentation, and you can trust More Beer to find the right conical for you. Brewbuilt at morebeer.com.
Home brewers, craft brewers, beer lovers, beer drinkers.
Get ready for an all-new experience in information exchange and beer culture.
Your only source for live beer radio that brings expert brewers from around the globe
right to your home.
You're not just listening to broadcasters, it's the Brewcasters
on the Brewing Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Brewcast right here on the Brewing Network, broadcasting live from Downtown Joe's in Napa. And of course we have Colin Kaminsky joining us tonight. JP's on the microphone hanging out with us, and the lovely Daniela in the chat room with you. If you need to ask us any questions, just hit the chat now button. How's everybody feeling tonight?
Awesome.
Yeah? Doing
Perfect.
Good?
Yeah.
It's our second time out here live from Downtown Joe's, Colin, and I'm ready. I'm feeling good about it.
I am too. It's been a lot of fun. Last time, I don't really remember what time we got off the air.
I don't know either, and the archive doesn't remember either.
Well, I think Jameel hacked in and destroyed the evidence.
I think so. We did lose the archive last time we were here. I'm going to make a disclaimer right now. One of you listeners out there better be hitting the record button if you want to hear this.
I'm sure you're going to get 4 different people doing this.
Yeah. I know the Crazy Jack hit his record button for us already, and maybe a couple others will. So we've got.
Look, he already finished the show for us.
He's giving me today's show right now. I can just play it at this very moment, and he's giving me something that I have no idea what it is. This is why he's Crazy Jack. He just hands me things at random, and I'm supposed to know what it is. And he wants me to read it, but it's a series of numbers. And
okay, so the first question for the chat room is, what does a series of numbers mean?
200 712850. Jack, you're insane. Thank you. 2007 128 5. Oh, I see. It's a date-coded number, Colin. Okay, let's get back to reality for a second and mention everybody that we are going to be here live at Downtown Joe's until, who knows, Colin? 8 o'clock at least, probably 10 is more realistic. We'll be here all night, and then we're going to be here next Sunday as well.
Well, I hid the IPA this week, so...
Okay. Then we might not be here as long as we think, after all. And lots of people hanging out with us today, so I encourage you to come out and do it too. We got John Foster, the Gooch, Crazy Jack, lots of beer drinkers just enjoying Downtown Joe's beer. So everybody's going to have a good time tonight, and we do encourage you to come out and hang out with us, everybody. So it's going to be fun. We're doing Beer Jeopardy here in just a little while, Colin.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun.
I won last time.
Did you really?
No.
Yeah.
Colin won Jeopardy?
Yeah, nobody wanted to see Jameel win, so the other 2 losers started feeding me answers.
The other 2 losers. So we're going to be doing some Beer Jeopardy, and I'm sorry, folks at home, you don't get to play today, and that's mostly because we don't have a phone system set up for you here. So we're going to take some live audience participation and give some things away right here at Downtown Joe's. Am I being told that this Crazy Jack CD I'm giving is actually last Sunday's show?
Yes, 2 weeks ago when we were here at Downtown Joe's. The Lost Archive.
Is it, you just gave me the Lost Archive? Why didn't you give it to me when I was asking for it in the forum for the whole week? And I had to... He says he was trying to send... Do you realize how many emails I got of people cussing me out for losing that show? And here, Crazy Jack had it all. He was hoarding it to himself. He probably listened to it 6 times already. And the rest of you have been wondering what happened. So, I guess what I'm saying is, in my hand, I have Drunken Jameel.
I think the fact that you have that means Jameel didn't pay the extortion money.
Yeah. He paid everybody but Crazy Jack. Well, Jameel, I'm going to reopen the extortion money vault. And I can be bribed, my friend. All right, so I'll post this archive then. I'll do that as well. Thanks, Crazy Jack. You're a good dude. He had a hidden archive, and it's the whole show? The whole thing is here? Really? Says the whole show. All right. Wow. A little secret bonus archive.
Yeah. Took a little while between the Vinny Puppet and this show, you being relevant and all, but you did a good job, and I appreciate it.
That's awesome. All right, fantastic. So now we have last week's show, and hopefully this week's show is recording properly, and everybody will be happy. So, like I said, coming up after the break, we're going to be doing some Beer Jeopardy in here, and I'm going to need some contestants from the audience to play. John P., the Chicken Man, has joined us out here at Downtown Joe's. We all know how good he is at Beer Jeopardy. Maybe maybe John should be a contestant with us today.
I think he should.
I think that'll be fun. So everybody's hanging out. Come on out and join us here at Downtown Joe's. We're going to be here all night long. Couple of announcements. Like I said, there are no phones this week. You can't Skype us or anything else, but you can join us in the chat room to ask questions like you always do. And today we're going to be covering beer fining and conditioning. And maybe not like I should describe exactly what that is, because we did a finings show with Colin, which is something different. That's not what we're doing tonight necessarily. Colin, why don't you go ahead? You had said to me that sometimes when you judge beer, you can tell that it probably was perfectly good beer, but something happened from the time it left the fermenter to the time you were tasting it out of the bottle, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly, I think, the issue I had. I got a chance to taste 40 or 50 homebrews one day.
Good for you.
And it was actually a fun experience, but one of the things I noticed was that there were some beers that I thought would have been just fine if they had just been cleaned up a little bit. You know what I mean? And I call it finishing a beer, and it's that process that starts at the end of fermentation, and goes all the way until it's in the customer's glass. And all of that has to be taken. You have to take as much care in that part of the process as you do in the part where you brew it.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to end up with these weird, sort of fuzzy tasting, cloudy beers.
And ruin an otherwise perfectly good beer.
And ruin a perfectly good beer. And some of these beers I was, had it in my glass, and I'm going, you know what? If I had a keg of this, I could fix it.
Okay. So that's what we're going to help you do today, and Colin's going to give us a bunch of tips about that, not only for those of you who want to compete with your beer, but just for your own sake. And we've talked about before in the past about how certain beers will age well and others won't, but one of the most important things is the beer that you start with and whether or not it's going to age well. And I've got a lot of questions for you about that, about what we can do so that our beer has a little more longevity in both the keg and the bottle.
Well, and certainly there's a big question for the big brewers, so there's tons of literature available on it as well.
Okay.
There's lots of science behind what we're going to do.
I find it weird that Colin knows anything about the science behind this topic. Our own mad scientist of brewing. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to do that probably we're going to start right about the 6 o'clock hour, because we're going to screw around here for the first half hour, and then we're going to play Beer Jeopardy for the second half hour, and then we'll get into the meat of this topic starting at 6 o'clock. And JP is here co-hosting with us today and has informed me that he has no information for us.
Absolutely not.
Just questions.
Just questions. I was trying to think about what can I do to actually be sort of a decent participant, and then I realized I have no idea.
Yeah, and we like you anyway, and
thank you.
so we're glad that you made it. Just to the last thing this show needs is another me, which has nothing to contribute whatsoever except for stupid questions.
Yeah, then that's pretty much what this is, especially with this topic. I have nothing to offer.
Okay. Yeah. So for those of you listening who your least favorite part of the show is me. Well, maybe you don't want to listen to the rest of the thing. So hang out with us. That's our topic today. Want to encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. Just hit the newsletter button right on our homepage. And Sean Paxton, the homebrew chef, he's hanging out with us today. Did the FM show. If for no other reason, you get great recipes from the homebrew chef in our newsletter. Just hit the newsletter button and sign up for that. Comes out at the beginning of every month or so. Right around the beginning. Yeah.
Maybe leaning towards the middle, but still generally in the beginning of the middle.
It does always come out before the first show of the month. Now, whether it comes out an hour before the show or a week before the show, it's kind of like a Jack in the Box.
You're refreshing that way. No one can tell.
Yeah. It's my gift to you. It's like a surprise every month.
Surprise! It's the newsletter.
Yeah. And it makes that sound when it goes into your inbox. In fact,
you have mail.
We've replaced that entire AOL You've Got Mail with surprise!
Surprise! Newsletter.
Yeah.
This is going to be the latest sound clip that gets played over and over again, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Last bit of what other announcements do I have here? Go to the Brewing Network store. I'm almost out of shirts. And when I run out, I'm going to order more. And I'm going to order hoodies. Because everybody wants hoodies.
That's a good thing.
Can we afford that?
No. But, man, we'll just put it on somebody's credit card.
Like mine?
Yeah. Yeah, like yours. Or John's. We'll find someone's credit card to put it on. But we're going to order hoodies and stuff like that. We'll put it on Chris Graham's. I don't care. What do I care?
I still know that number, actually.
From working with him? All right. Call it. We're talking after the show. Last thing I want to say is, and I'm not even allowed to say this. It's against the rules, but I don't care. Hit those, maybe if I spell it. You know how when you talk around your kid and you don't want them to hear that word, you have to spell it?
All the time.
Yeah. Maybe if we taught our kids how to spell, that wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah.
But the deal is I'm not supposed to say to click those GOOGLE ads that are on our website, because it's free for you, and it helps us out. You're not allowed to encourage that.
I don't understand.
JP has no idea what I said. Hit those ads. Won't hurt you.
He was trying to spell Google.
No.
Forget. Now they're going to drop me.
I thought it was like a soccer thing.
I actually got a notice from them once, because I think I don't know if I put it on our website in writing, or I was clicking them a bunch myself, whatever I was doing. And they sent me a letter, and they're like, you can't click your own links, and you can't encourage anybody to click your links either, because that's cheating. But I don't care. All right, so.
Screw him.
That's why I spelt it, Colin. Colin's like, ooh, I know what he spelled.
Oh, me. Teacher, I'm surprised you didn't bring a polished apple.
Yeah.
No, I brought beer.
Yeah, you brought polished beer.
There you go.
So, all right, let's get into our feedback. And I don't have our soundbite for the feedback, and it's the problem with doing remotes. We don't have our full studio with us. Although it kind of looks like we do. But feedback this week. I got a lot of really good mail this week. It was nice.
You always get good mail.
It's nice to hear. You know, sometimes, well, here's the difference. Sometimes you get people who, like, throw you these one or two sentences, and that's fine. You know, we like all that, too. But sometimes you get stuff where people, you can tell they've really thought about the show, and they thought about ideas for us, and what they like and they don't like, and that's always fun to get, because it's kind of, it's just encouraging that people, you know, spend any of their time thinking about the show, even when they're not listening to it.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree.
Which is something that I don't even do. So it's cool when listeners do it. So let me read a couple of these things that we got. One's a long one. Hey, Justin, been an archive listener for the past couple months now, and I love the Brewing Network. I must admit that I became aware of the network through the Jameel Show. But I discovered the Sunday show quickly thereafter. And he says, while the Jameel Show is informative and interesting, it tends to be a little bland at times. He's not talking about you, John, don't worry.
John's not listening, don't worry.
The Sunday show, however, is never bland. Which is probably true. Even on the days when all of you guys are past the point of hungover, the show is still entertaining. And the guests are great, and Doc's slurring info is much appreciated. I love that about our Doc.
I miss Doc.
I know.
I haven't seen him since the last show I did with him.
You know what? I don't think I've seen him since the last show you did with him. He hasn't been on in like a month now. And he's home today, won't be on the show today. He's going to make a cameo appearance on next Sunday's show. And then I think he might be gone the week after that, too. I don't know what's happening. Send Doc hate mail, doc@thebrewingnetwork.com. Ask him where he's been. But he likes that, and he says, Daniela's World Vigorously is a nice addition to the otherwise very localized Brewcast.
There you go.
See? So, you know, you got a fan. At least one.
That's good. Thank you, Ben.
He says, I have two reasons for writing. The first is to ask a couple of questions, and he wants to know if I've batch sparged yet. Remember we did a show a long time ago because I got all fed up with my all-grain brewing, and I was angry, and I cried. And Denny Kahn came on the show, and he taught me how to do batch sparging, and he just wants to know if I did that and how it went. And I thought I had come back and done a follow-up of that, but I guess maybe I didn't. I have switched now to batch sparging instead of fly sparging, Colin. I'm an official, I batch sparge.
Why?
Because I'm, what's the word? Not lazy. Denny Kahn says something else.
I forget.
Like efficient or something like that. Basically,
lazy and efficient, I could see how you'd interchange those two words.
Yeah.
If you were lazy, you would do that.
Oh, pragmatic.
There you go.
Because I'm pragmatic. And because I kept screwing up my fly sparging.
Well, what were you doing to get your fly sparging wrong?
Doing it, I think is really
I think I did it.
Yeah. That's how you screw it up.
No, we don't know, because it could have been a number of factors. It could have been that I had channeling, or it could have been that I did it too quickly, or it could have just been that I'm stupid. And it's probably that I'm stupid. So Denny came on, he's like, listen, there are a number of things that we could probably troubleshoot and figure out what you're doing wrong, but give batch sparging a try, just for the heck of it. Because it will eliminate most of those things in one fell swoop, and you're probably going to get the same efficiency, et cetera, and you may even save yourself some time.
So what was your efficiency?
10.
Really big. It was like over 80%, actually. It was really amazing.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was actually really
amazing.
I was getting great efficiency. I have that the B3 Igloo set up.
Right.
The 10-gallon, the 20-gallon, whatever that 10-gallon ones.
Gallon,
I got the big ones. And I was getting really good efficiency. And for me, the batch sparging ended up working out so well because it kind of cut off a step for me, which essentially was the sparge step where you would have to normally take an hour to get it done. It takes me like 10 minutes because you don't have to do it slowly. You just dump it all out as fast as you can get it to flow, your wort. And then you do it again. And it was a piece of cake. Like, you rinse it one more time. So I don't have to do that sort of slow sparge, get all the timing right, make sure I have an inch of water above the grain bed, et cetera, et cetera. With a batch sparge, I just dump it out, I fill it up again with 170-degree water, and I dump it out again, and I'm done. And I got great efficiency out of it.
I could see how that would work. Yeah.
Denny Kahn's argument in the end was, and even I think John Palmer has said something to the same effect, there will be a difference in efficiency between fly sparging and batch sparging, but on a homebrew level, it's so minute that we probably won't even notice in our beer in terms of flavor and gravity and things of that nature. So I am now officially a batch sparger because it went really well. The very first time I did it, it went really well. And then Daniela did it after that, and it went really well. And we've now moved on to screwing up other parts of our process.
Well, they can all be fixed.
A couple more sessions and maybe... In fact, I'm going to sidetrack here for a second.
You have to.
Surprise. I've been in a depression for 2 days, Colin, since waking up yesterday morning.
Because Anna Nicole
you knew I was going to be on the show longer than that.
I woke up really depressed yesterday because I lost my first 5 gallons of beer. Lost it. Yeah.
On our carpet.
Yeah, my carpet received it, and I lost it.
Did you break the carboy?
No. I had already kegged it, and I was carbonating it at 30 pounds. And
why?
See, here's what happened.
What the hell is wrong with you?
It all comes down to the fact that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed.
But
and
you're not
we
even
all know that.
Dull. You're flat. What are you doing?
Well, I like to pump it up to 30 pounds
why?
Because I'm going to answer you why.
Okay.
Because it only takes like 3 days to carbonate them, whereas if I put it at 12 pounds, it takes like 7 or 8, and I want to get it done. This is not the problem. I do it all the time. That's fine. What you don't do when you have it up to 30 pounds is keep the tap part connected to the keg too. Right? So that you have not only the CO2 on the corny, but you also have it tapped.
Right.
Well, I tapped it because I wanted it. I was testing it. I had to taste it. Right. It had been on for 2 days, and I had to taste it. And when I went to bed, I forgot to take the tap off. So I left it on at 30 pounds, fully tapped, and somewhere in the middle. Oh, and on top of that, I don't have the right size hose in my tap. I jerry-rigged it, as we say.
Jury-rig.
Is that what they say? It's not Jerry?
No, you rigged the jury, so you're not guilty.
Oh,
they say other things, too.
I thought there was like some moron named Jerry. And then
no, I've heard Jerry, too.
Thank you. Well, I jury-rigged it, too, then.
Yeah. You Justin-rigged it.
It was too large, and so I just did a good clamp job on it, and it always worked fine when I just was serving at 12 pounds. But sitting overnight with 30 pounds of CO2 on it, PSI, so at some point during the night, it sprung a leak. And then proceeded to leak all night long until, my roommate woke up yesterday morning and found a large black porter stain 5 gallons worth on our living room carpet.
On your white living room carpet?
I'm super angry at you. I'm really angry because I worked for this beer for 6 hours. I bought the grain. I did everything, and you just
listen. I'm depressed enough. Like I need this.
I don't care.
Like I need you to tell me how bad I am.
No, but it's the truth.
All right, I'm an evil, terrible person.
Yes, you are.
First you stain my life, then you stain my carpet.
Yeah.
I hate you so much.
And it was our first real mutual brew, too.
I don't think it was that good anyway. I mean, it probably wasn't very good.
No.
Because you don't know what good beer is. I'm really angry.
Yeah,
so
don't carbonate it.
I literally, I have been in this funk since it happened, and I didn't pay. I thought, it must be my life that I'm depressed about. I thought about it today. It really isn't. My life's fine. I'm depressed about losing the beer, and I'm really bummed about it. So, lost my first 5 gallons of beer. Anyway, okay, back to the feedback. So yes, batch sparging is good. Let's see, the second reason this person wrote into us is he wants to tell me that I'm right. And I always like emails like that. You know, remember that one time when Doc was wrong?
Yes.
And I was right?
About the sugars?
Remember that?
I do.
That one time?
At one time?
Yeah.
It was only like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Remember that? Well, he wants me to know that I'm right about Wikipedia, too. Long time ago, everyone in the chat room was really jumping all over me because I said, listen, Wikipedia is not the gospel. Like, it's a bunch of idiots like me. You can type anything you want in there.
Yeah.
And I just was saying, not that it isn't a good resource for information, but that it's not as reliable as other resources because until it gets checked and balanced, anybody can type anything onto it.
Exactly.
Well, everyone who loves their Wikipedia went all nuts on me, what is Encyclopedia Britannica paying you to say that, and they are the gospel, and all this. Well, this guy writes back to say he did his whole PhD thesis on things like this, and he went to Wikipedia for some information about an ancient Greek philosopher, and there were like 4 sentences on him, and each sentence was wrong. They were all completely wrong. And so he just wanted me to know that I was right, that it's a good source for sort of like general knowledge, but if you need specifics, you don't go to Wikipedia.
Absolutely.
What's this guy's name?
Jeff,
please correct that article. You're helping everybody.
And that's that ends up being the bottom line, that people do go and correct it, but how do you know? How do you know it's been fully corrected?
Because you go to another website, check it out.
Well, then why not just go to the other website first? You see what I'm saying? That's my point about Wikipedia.
I agree.
So, really, the point there was that I was right, and he told me so.
Wikipedia is like your 15-year-old child. They're almost there.
Yeah.
And you see them make mistakes, but you also see them do good things, too,
It's true, and sometimes you got to smack them around.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
like you're doing right now, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Call them a whore and lock them in their bedroom.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, next one. Hey, Justin, I'm a home brewer in the UK. Been brewing for about 2 years. Found your podcast and website through Google about a year ago and been listening to the Sunday and Jameel Show archives religiously. Not been able to listen live because of the time difference. First, love the shows. He says that he doesn't have a homebrew shop or a club near him, so this is the closest thing he gets to a brewing community. And he says the sheer amount of knowledge and information that comes out of each show is just huge. So I think that's a cool thing about us. I like that where people who live where there aren't other homebrewers around, we kind of have our own little club going on here.
We are your club.
We're the club, the official club. Secondly, he says something I think would be cool to have access to is just the interviews during our shows. Says, as much as I enjoy listening to the shows as a whole, quite often I just want to revisit a certain interview to check out what so-and-so said about something or other. And it'd be nice to just listen to the interview on your own. And the reason I wanted to read this one is because I'm on it, my brother. I'm actually already started cutting out just the interviews from the shows, and we're going to start streaming those as well as making them available for download. But don't ask me when, because it's a lot of work. I mean, there's like almost 2 years worth of shows I got to go through.
Is that right after the newsletter's done?
Yeah, pretty much. As soon as the newsletter's done, you can look for that. And thirdly, he wants us to tag the archives as well so that people can just search for them. And that's another thing that we're working on, but it requires a lot of work. And I'm actually, just give a heads up, I'm going to be enlisting some loyal listeners from the forum to help me out with that. I need people to listen to our old archives and write down all the key words that would make that archive searchable, because I have to create a database on the website. This is the big pain in the ass about the whole thing, is that a database has to be created in order for these to be searchable. But I think it's probably one of the best things we could do for our archive page. So I'd like to do it, and I'm going to need help from listeners. So look for a post in the forum soon where I'm saying, as you're listening, write down the keywords so we can do that. Let's see, what else do I got?
Is moron a keyword?
Yeah, and that
you're talking about the Friday show, and then, in which case you get all the hits.
And of course, that would be during every episode we've ever done, so Moron isn't going to help anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Except I guess I could take it out of the call-in shows.
No, you need to just keep it in the call-in.
Just keep it for those. Okay, yeah, that's it for feedback. So you can give us feedback if you'd like to at justin@thebrewingnetwork.com or feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com. Pretty easy, and we really like to get the feedback, not just so we can read it on the air, but so we know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and all the rest. So justin@thebrewingnetwork.com or feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com. All right, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show. It's Daniela's World Vigarosa, and she has new theme music this week.
Do I?
You do.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's all about the rest of the world. Daniela's World Vigarosa.
Bam bam, mon ça se passe, j'ai sur mon lit à bouffer sa langue en buvant grand mon whisky. Quant à moi, peu dormi, vie débris, mais j'ai dû dormir dans la bouteille.
Oh, I like my new music. Woo!
What language is that?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's French, you moron.
Thank you.
There it goes. You can tag this show.
Yeah, tag that.
There you go.
French moron.
For my Vigaro's World this week, I was watching Bud TV all week long.
Butt?
Bud.
Oh, Bud. Bud TV.
You were watching Bud TV, I'm watching Bud
I thought
TV.
for a second her and I had something in common.
You both subscribe to that cable channel?
Yeah.
Butt TV.
So I don't know if you guys have heard about it. I think a couple of weeks ago, Budweiser launched Bud TV online. JP is cracking up.
We just love your English. Yeah, it's it's just bud.tv, right? It's not even .com.
Exactly, it's bud.tv, and I checked it out. So the first thing you have to do, which is really stupid, you have to verify that you're over 21 years old, which is ridiculous. It's the internet. There should not be such a thing like verification.
Yeah.
So I tried to do it wrong, and I do have an American identification card. Put in all my information, put in my birth date. I'm really young, but I'm over 21.
Yeah.
Put in my name, and it wouldn't accept me.
Yeah.
I tried like 5 different times. It says I don't exist in their database or whatever. So first thing is really stupid.
Does that mean you're a terrorist? You don't exist in the database?
Maybe.
There was a whole article about that. Bud has taken it upon themselves to be like the overage, really making sure that they're weeding out underage people. And there really was an article about it where they went around to all the other websites, because a lot of the beer websites will ask you to put in your age in order to sign in. But it's really kind of ridiculous if you think about it, because everybody can type in.
It's an honor system thing.
It is an honor. So Budweiser said, no, we're going to be more strict about it, whereas all the other companies said, listen, there's really not much we can do. Anything more, you can get around it anyway. But Bud has taken it upon themselves to do that. So that's interesting that you're saying that they're really going for it with the Bud TV.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know what it is, because I do have my identification card for 3 years now, so it's either that I'm a minority or I'm an alien. They don't accept me, or both. Yeah. So I logged on with your information, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
I was wondering,
I did get an email from Bud TV saying I'm now registered.
You're on some watch list now.
Yeah, I thought, that's weird. I didn't even subscribe.
Yeah, they needed everything. No, they just need your name and they need your zip code, and then they verify you. So it worked with you, old hag.
Okay, perfect.
So I started watching it. Registration was awful. 0 out of 5 Vigaro's beers for that. It was really terrible. Took me too long.
Okay.
Then you get on this website and they have this chick announcer there, and she explains to you how Bud TV works. Very retarded too. 0 out of 5 Vigaro's beers. You don't need this explanation. And
I saw that part. I wasn't against the chick telling the rules.
She's not even half naked. She's fully clothed.
Yeah, she is. It's true.
And she's not. Yeah.
Okay, you're right. You changed my mind. I'm with you.
Thank you. So
she's got a sweater on, as a matter of fact.
She has an ugly sweater on, and
it's ugly.
Awful hair.
Budweiser doesn't even send out Bud girls to the bars anymore.
Is that right?
What is going on? And they don't have the girls wrestling in fountains on the commercials any longer. What, did they get a new CEO or something?
Yeah, they're very conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that sucked too. So 0 out of 5 Vigaro's beers. If they decide to have the girl wear a bikini, I give them 3 beers.
You'll go up to 3?
Yeah, I'm going to send them an email anyway, so I will suggest that too.
Okay.
So then it's not a whole lot on there actually. You scroll through like different video segments. It's basically really just a video thing. So the funny thing about it was they have their commercials on there, and one commercial was hilarious. You know, that I've always appreciated Budweiser for their commercials actually.
Yeah, they do have great commercials.
They're really funny, and they had the one, I think it aired through the during the Super Bowl, Scissor, Paper and Rock.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my gosh, cracked me up.
Colin, you seen that commercial?
No, you told me about it earlier this evening.
So these two guys, they're fighting over the last Bud Light. You know, we've all done that, right? The last Bud Light.
I'd spent my last 5 years in prison for that.
So they both run up to the cooler and they both grab the bottle of Bud Light and they make this agreement with each other. Okay, we're going to have to do rock, paper, scissors for it. You know, it's a manly way to decide who gets the last beer. So as they're about to do it, you know, they do the whole, 1, 2, 3, and you shoot. And as the guy, instead of throwing down his hand in the shape of a rock, he just throws a rock in the face of the other guy. Just knocks him out with an actual rock.
Right. And the other guy yells, "I was just throwing the paper." So that's just hilarious.
It is
good
funny.
Commercial. So that was funny. Then I scrolled through. There's another segment called "What Girls Want," and I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's why I had to verify my age. So that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Totally sucky.
Really?
0 out of 5 Vigoros beers. Super boring. It's just 3 chicks. They're kind of hot, so I would see why a guy maybe would be enjoying that.
Yeah.
And they go out to bars. They grab guys, like one specific guy, and they give him a makeover.
Oh. So it's like that, what's it called, JP? That one show?
The Swan.
The Jamil Show.
Yeah. Yeah. That one where they make over heterosexuals?
Yeah. That's why John's on there.
Okay. Well, so it's similar to that.
Yeah, so they have that on there. And they have a few other series on there too. So what they do, they have different episodes, different series. One is animated. It's about a guy who wakes up and the whole humanity is gone. He's like the only human being alive.
Oh yeah, I would like that.
You would like that?
Yeah, I'm sick of people.
Who would listen to your program?
I don't care. I just want to be left alone.
Who would malt your grains?
I just really want to be left alone.
Who would brew beer for you?
Alright, I'd keep Colin around as long as he left me alone. Alright, go on, please.
So
I won't date you.
So that wasn't to my interest either. They have some commercials or trailers for movies up there, funny movies that are coming out, a Vince Vaughn movie. And then the only segment that I really liked is they have short films on that website.
Okay.
All kinds of short films, different topics, and that's the only part I really enjoyed about it.
And those were good?
Those were really good,
okay.
Yeah. They're really, if you're into that kind of thing, go and check them out. They're really good. Overall, the website gets 1 out of 5. It has nothing to do with beer whatsoever. I couldn't see any connection, maybe just like Bud itself.
Yeah, okay.
No beer content whatsoever.
Okay.
I think we don't need it.
Don't even need to have it there.
No.
It's a waste of internet space.
It's a waste of an IP address.
Oh. Ouch. Okay. Well, luckily we've already, pissed off Anheuser-Busch to the point that they're never going to sponsor us. So I guess it doesn't matter that you're saying that that's also a waste of IP address.
Well, I'm just trying to give them some constructive criticism. Maybe they can improve it.
Okay.
If they would come up with something good, I think Beer TV is awesome per se.
Yeah.
Not like they do it though.
Yeah, I think the Brewing Network could do a better job. I mean, we at least would have JP in a bikini instructing people
true.
how to use
At
it.
least.
Yeah. What, the bikini?
At the very least.
I think I'll pass.
Yeah, you'll pass.
Yeah.
You'll pass your food again.
He's lying. Meanwhile,
mouth.
Colin is putting it in his favorites right now. It doesn't even exist yet, and he's bookmarking the page.
So, to sum it up once more in my life, I'm totally disappointed by Anheuser-Busch.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Harsh words for the Germans.
Yeah. Daniela's World, Vigorously, everybody. The part we all look forward to in every Sunday show.
Ça se passe, j'ai sur mon lit à bouffer sa langue en buvant grand mon whisky. Quant à moi, peu dormi, vie débris, mais j'ai dû dormir dans la gouttière où j'ai eu un flash. Regarde couleur.
That's an awesome song.
Can you,
That would be the Japanese version.
yeah, I like how
European.
JP has gone, he's like 4 languages in one there. I like that JP is our most politically correct guest.
That's right. Well, we're in public.
Especially when we were out in public. We can always count on JP to be you know what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah. If it was good noon, forget about it.
All right, we got lots more beer to drink and fun to have. When we come back, we're going to play Beer Jeopardy, and I'm going to need some folks from the audience to come up for a chance to win some prizes and test your beer knowledge. And some of it's going to be about Downtown Joe's, so if you're a regular here, you might be a prime candidate. Hang in there. It's the Brewing Network, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Brewcasters. The Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
Yeah, we're back broadcasting live from Downtown Joe's in Napa, of course, and having a good time with Colin Kaminsky, who's feeding me beverages and who knows what else, Colin. I never know. You're like a 12-sided die, Colin, in every sense of the word. I'm showing my Dungeons & Dragons geekiness, by the way. John Foster, I know you know what I'm talking about.
And you're calling me a geek.
Yeah, and because you're a scientist, a brewer, and you're kind of a nutcase on the other end there sometimes.
You know, Doc and I have some things in common.
Yeah. It's very strange that Doc can be one of the best dentists I've ever been to, and a person that I'm the most afraid of at the same time. It's very strange.
You ever play White Dot, Black Dot?
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds evil.
I play White Dot, Black Dot. I'm the Burning Man, brah.
All right, we're getting ready to play some Beer Jeopardy. Have we got our contestants with us today? Okay, I think we've got everything. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to play for a couple of prizes. We've got some T-shirts to give away, courtesy of the Brewing Network and friends of the Brewing Network. And then, Colin, what else are we giving away?
Well, we've got a Tail Wagon hat.
Beautiful.
And a Tail Wagon hoodie.
And a hoodie.
Yeah, I've got hoodies.
I'll take the hoodie.
He's already got hoodies. Fast. Okay, then I'll tell you what. First place gets the hat and the hoodie. That's a grand prize right there. So first place today is going to get the hat and the hoodie, and we'll give the runners-up some shirts and different swag that we have. And
I'm going to have to buy a hoodie before I leave here.
Yeah, I didn't know that you had it. Now I feel like I'm smaller than you in my man place.
You probably are.
Well, you know that was the goal.
In your bathing suit area.
Away a T-shirt, but when I heard you didn't have hoodies,
you're like, I got a hoodie. Bastard.
He already has you on the good beer portion of the thing, right?
Pretty much got me on every level of the thing here.
You're taller.
All right, we're getting folks lined up here. We're going to have three contestants from the bar and from various places. We're going to do some teaming up too. Gucci and John are going to team up.
Oh.
And we decided that they could be a team because John is hardly even a contestant. I mean, when you team him up with somebody and you team him up with Gooch, between the two of them, that's like one whole person.
John's hardly a contestant, and Gucci is hardly a man. So between the two, they equal a 12-year-old boy.
I hope that John rips through this and makes me and JP look like retards.
I'm going to spit on JP.
Yeah.
Yes.
For $12.
John, please say, haven't had him on the show in a while. I'm glad that you came out to hang out with us and have some fun. Yeah, you can sit down right there, John. We'll put you and Gooch on the end, and you guys are a team. And then what else we have here? We've got JP and Carolyn.
Who's Carolyn?
Carolyn is Colin's significant other.
Nice.
And she's a lot better looking than you are, JP.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Which isn't saying a whole lot, but I just thought I'd point it out.
Yes, well, I appreciate that.
And we're just going to grab one more chair, but Carolyn, you can sit in this one right here. And then if we can get one more chair up here, anybody can bring it. Maybe that one will work. And that way our other contestant, who looks like is Dave right here from the bar, is going to be hanging out with us and playing Beer Jeopardy. So we got Dave, JP and Carolyn and John and the Gooch.
The Gooch.
All playing together. So Dave is a patron of Downtown Joe's here. And throw these headphones on right there, Dave, so you can hear what we're saying. And I will explain the rules of... I got a lot of that backed up in there.
Yeah, it's good for you, though.
It's from that weird drink that I was served at the break there. Can you hear us okay, Dave? Yep. All right, you can. So you're going to have to get real close and talk into the mic there. And you a fan of the Downtown Joe's beer?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So that's the only requirement that we have here for you to play. And let me explain the rules. What we've got here for our Beer Jeopardy game, folks at home and regular listeners, you already know the deal here. We've got 4 categories. And there's a total of 4 questions in each category, 100 points through 400 points. And it works a lot like Jeopardy. The only difference is that you don't have to answer in the form of a question. You can just answer. It's no big deal. But there is a trick to answering. You have to make a buzzer sound. And each one of you is going to have your own buzzer sound.
I got mine.
Chicken Boy, what's your buzzer sound?
It was Biggity Doppelbach.
Okay, Biggity Doppelbach is John's. And Gooch, you might have to do that buzzer too. If you know the answer, you're going to have to jump in there and say Biggity Doppelbach. 3 times fast. Okay, so that's your buzzer. JP and Carolyn, what's your buzzer sound going to be?
I'm partial to clang. Clang. So they're gonna, and Dave, you have to. You can either make up your own, or we'll make up one for you. I would suggest you make up your own.
No, I'm good with you guys.
So we'll make one up for you. Okay, Dave, your buzzer sound is Prost.
No.
Prost.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do is say Prost. And you have to drink every time you say it, too. No, I'm kidding, Dave. You just have to say Prost when you want to buzz in. But make sure you jump right there up on the microphone when you know the answer, and that way I'll know who answered first. Daniela, of course, will have to assist me in deciding who buzzed in first, and we'll get on with the game. I was just handed a drink from the homebrew chef, which the last time I was handed a drink from the homebrew chef, I woke up the next morning sore, and I didn't know where I was. But, hey, I'll give it another try. What the hell, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not experimenting if you don't do it more than once.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, now let me make sure I've got all the categories right today. Now, Dave, I'm going to have the answers right next to me here. Don't look over my shoulder and cheat.
I never would.
I hope so. I don't know you very well. Your categories today are Do It Like the Germans Do, which, if you've ever seen those films, freaky stuff. Do It Like the Germans. That's your first category. In no particular order. Your second category is To Beer or Not To Beer. It's one of my favorite categories.
That is the question.
Your next category is Random Things Daniela Found on Google. She spends a lot of time there. And the last category today is You Say Kaminsky, I Say Mad Scientist. And that's our final category. And Dave, I'm going to give you a hint right now. Just for you. Everybody else, cover your ears. If you come to Downtown Joe's often, that's going to be your category right there, buddy. It's where you're going to get the edge.
Okay.
You're playing for a hoodie, you know. Some companies have hoodies. And Dave, since we go so far back, I'm going to give you control of the board. You get to pick the first one. Now, you don't have to pick in order, 100 through 400. You could go right for 400 points if you wanted to. Whatever you want to do, pick any category, and you have control of the board, sir.
Well, you say Kaminsky, I say Mad Scientist for 400.
Going right for 400 points.
Straight out of the gate.
You say Kaminsky, I say Mad Scientist. The question is, Colin brews his beer on a how many barrel system? How many barrel? Anybody can buzz in.
Biggity Doppelbock.
Clang.
Okay, Carolyn and JP have buzzed in first.
Colin has a 7-barrel brew house.
That is correct. He brews on 7 barrels. That's right.
But the way he uses it, it's more like an 8-barrel.
That's true. So that's 400 points for Carolyn and JP, and you folks have control of the board.
There you go.
Go ahead and pick a category and a score, please. Carolyn and JP.
What category do you want to go to?
Let's go Random Things Daniela Found on Google for 100.
For 100 points, Random Things Daniela Found on Google. The question is, which one of the following historical figures used to brew his or her own beer? It's multiple choice. Which one of these used to brew their own beer? Mahatma Gandhi?
Oh, yeah.
Franz Joseph Strauss? That was the ex-prime minister of Bavaria for us Americans. Napoleon Bonaparte? Or George Washington?
Biggity Doppelbock.
Ooh, I think Diggity Doppelbock.
George Washington.
That is correct. George Washington was actually an accomplished brewmaster.
Brewing beer is very peaceful for me.
One of his handwritten recipes is still exposed in the New York Public Library. You can still go and read it there. So that's 100 points for JP and the Gooch, and you folks have control of the board.
Wait, for who? For what?
JP
Call me
and the
JP.
Gooch. Sorry, John.
Yeah, there you go.
That whole confusion about the who's JP and who's
Google
John.
for 200.
Google for 200. What is a glucophilic? A glucophilic. I told you it's Random Things Daniela Found on Google. What is a glucophilic?
Clang.
Go ahead, JP.
Someone who likes sugar.
I'm going to move on, but I might come back to you.
Are you going to tell me I'm wrong or something? Or?
Dave, would you like to buzz in? You don't lose any points, even if you wanted to say anything.
Okay,
Go ahead.
someone who likes fruit sugar.
Yeah. Colin, do we want to give either one of them the answer? You know what a glucophilic is, don't you? You would have said the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, let's let
biggity.
Let's let the audience decide. Okay, go ahead.
Someone who's glucose intolerant?
No, that's definitely wrong. You don't even get a vote. But a good guess. Okay, the actual answer, a glucophilic, is an organism that thrives on glucose. Oh. So, in a sense, JP was close, but Colin's saying no, Daniela's saying no. Does anybody want to say yes to JP out there?
Yes, I think
yes. No.
Okay, no points for anybody, and John P. still has control of the board.
Google 300.
Google for 300. Belgium is the country with the most unique beer brands in the world. They have over how many?
Clang.
Go ahead, JP.
400.
That is correct. They have over 400 different brands of beer, and that's 200 points for JP. And Carolyn, giving you folks control of the board. Go ahead, please.
How about do it like the Germans for 100?
That a girl. All right. For 100 points, do it like the Germans. This is a multiple choice question, everybody, so wait for the answers. Which is the oldest still existing brewery in Germany? Augustiner Brau, Brewery Weinstefan, Allgauer Brauhaus, or Krombacher Brauerei?
Clang.
Go ahead, JP.
Weinstefan?
That is correct. It's been around since 1040, Weinstefan. Colin, this is always an amazing thing to me when we start talking about German breweries that have been around since 1040. That's amazing to me. Just that they've been using the same yeast since then, Colin said. Yeah, it is just a true bit of history there. So
Daniela's happy because I'm a Greek and I'm on fire.
And you still have control of the board. Carolyn and JP, go ahead, please.
How about do it like the Germans for 200?
All right.
All right. Go. Listen closely. The original Reinheitsgebot law of 1516 allows only what 3 ingredients in beer?
Biggity Doppelbock.
Go ahead, John.
Grain, hops, and yeast.
No.
No? You know
That is not correct.
Say it.
Clang.
Go ahead.
Water, hops, and barley.
Close enough. That's right. Water, hops, and malt. Yeast wasn't added until later. The original Reinheitsgebot did not include yeast. And they added it to the Reinheitsgebot. I don't know the year, but they did it a little
Proof
bit
that
later.
knowledge by osmosis works.
Wow. Carolyn and JP are doing great, and you still have control of the board.
How about to beer or not to beer for 100?
One of my favorite categories, to beer or not to beer. I'm going to give you the name of a beer. You're going to tell me if it is actually a beer or if I just pulled it out of my armpit. Ready? Yes. For 100 points, Urigay Superstopper.
Clang.
Go ahead.
A beer.
No, you're wrong. It's not a real beer. The real beer is actually Urigay Doppelstike, which is an alt beer brewed in the Urigay Hausbrauerei in Germany. We'll go ahead and give them... Well, no, I didn't. We don't take away points for... Yeah, take away 100 from them. Everybody else, they don't.
That sounds like something the Germans would do. Doppelstocker?
Yeah. And let's go ahead and give Dave control of the board. No, you don't want control? All right. John P., you have control of the board.
Google 400.
100's gone already, isn't it?
400.
400, okay. Let me find you here. Here we go. Good question. What American university had its own brew house and 5 beer halls in the year 1674? They had it up until the year 1674.
Prost.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yale?
No, sir. Not Yale. Good guess, though.
Clang.
JP.
Harvard.
That is correct.
Oh.
Harvard. Wow. Yeah. They had 5 beer halls and their own brewery, all of which were burnt down by rioting students in the year 1674.
At that point in time, what do you have to riot about?
Well, not only that.
That our powdered wigs aren't powdered enough?
And if you're going to burn stuff down, you don't burn down the beer hall. Burn down the lecture hall.
Maybe it wasn't good beer.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they burned it down because it wasn't good. All right, JP, you have control of the board and running away with the score, I'm afraid.
You say Kaminsky, I say mad scientist for 300.
Okay, for 300 points. This is multiple choice. When not brewing for Downtown Joe's, Colin is A, building gliders, B, building motorcycles, C, building guitars, or D, all of the above. You think Dave came in before John? All right, Dave, go ahead, please.
I'd go with guitars.
Clang.
Go ahead.
All of the above.
That's true. It's not. He does do guitars. You're right, Dave. But he also builds gliders and motorcycles and probably skyscrapers. I have no idea. It was a trick question.
The guy does a lot. I mean, he brewed his own kid. You know, once you brew your own kid, you're pretty much you do everything.
He's the first one to genetically brew a child. How long do you have to mash?
I did all the hard work. Wait a minute.
He said the opposite, actually, Carol. He said he did all the hard work.
I'm sure he did, and is still doing all the hard work, as you can see.
You're thinking, really? Because I don't remember being that hard. Oh! Sorry, Colin. Carol and JP, you have control of the board.
How about do it like the Germans for 300?
All right. Doing it like the Germans for 300 points. The famous German beer-style Kölsch, all the different ways to say it, originates in which city? Which city? Go ahead, John.
Cologne.
That is correct. In Cologne, Germany. That gives John and Gooch. What are you doing back there, Gooch? You're not doing anything for this team.
Give me a back rub.
He's looking good over there.
Yeah, give John a shoulder rub or something. He's
do it like the Germans. 400.
For how many points?
400.
Is that the last one? Does that clear out the category? Okay, multiple choice. How many liters of beer were consumed during the Oktoberfest in 2006? Last year's Oktoberfest. Was it A, 4.3 million liters, B, 5.2 million liters, C, 6.1 million liters, or D, 7.5 million liters? You could just pick a letter.
Clang.
Go ahead.
C.
C, 6.1 million liters is correct. Those festival goers at the Oktoberfest know how to drink their beer. 6.1 million liters over what, a 14-day period? Wow. Unbelievable. That's like 7 days at my house. That's like how much my carpet drank this week.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah. Can they even be beaten at this point, JP and Carol?
No,
I think they've walked away with it. We'll let them finish anyway. Go ahead and pick a question, just for fun.
How about to beer or not to beer for 400?
For 400 points, the beer is Hairy Eyeball.
Clang.
Go ahead, JP.
That is a beer.
That's right. Lagunitas Brewing Company makes it. Go ahead and pick another one.
It's funny they let me finish on that one. Go ahead.
It looks like JP says.
How about let's do, you say Kaminsky, I say Mad Scientist for 200.
For 200 points, all the malt used in Downtown Joe's beer is blank.
Clang.
Go ahead, JP.
From Brewer Supply Group.
That could be true, but it's not the correct answer. Anybody else like to chime in? It's all, I'll give you a hint. It's all from
Brewer Supply Group. Brewer Supply Group.
Go ahead, John.
Breeze?
No, and it's a geographical area. It's all from, Dave, you're the last one to buzz in. Would you like to take a stab? It's a really big geographical area.
Washington.
You know what? I'm going to give Dave
style points for that.
Yeah, Dave gets 300 points for style. They're actually all from Europe. All of his malts are from Europe. Being not quite as large as Washington, but just as much fun. And do we have anything? What do we got? 100 points for Mad Scientist, just for fun? Let's do it. You say Kaminsky, I say Mad Scientist. Before becoming brewmaster at Downtown Joe's, Colin was A, unemployed, B, a rocket scientist, C, a product designer at B3, or D, on a spy mission 2,000 feet below the surface of the Baltic Sea. Go ahead, John.
C.
C is correct. He had an unfair advantage. He used to work with the man.
Very
he used
cautious.
To work. He was a product designer for Beer, and More Beer. And if you listen to the shows, you know that quite well. Well, I think our winners today...
We have to beer and not to beer.
2 more, man.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For 2 and 300.
To beer or not to beer for 200, please.
Okay. For 200... Give me this right now, please. Cosmic Charlie Y2K Catastrophe Ale.
Clang.
Go ahead.
No.
It actually is a beer.
Are you kidding me with that name?
200
That's
points.
minus 200 for them. It's a barley wine brewed by Central Waters Brew Pub right here in the United States. Yeah.
Right here.
Right here.
Right here.
Which is near Washington.
Sure.
And what do we have next? For 300, to beer or not to beer, for 300 points, Dirty Dick's Ale.
Clang.
Go ahead.
That's a beer.
That is a beer. It's brewed by Young's & Co. Brewery in the U. It's an English bitter, and it's called Young's Dirty Dick's Ale, which, by the way, is a great name for a beer. Well, who's our winner, Daniela? Is that John? Oh, JP.
I want you to total that and tattoo it on your forehead, please.
All right. So I guess JP gets to take home a Downtown Joe's hoodie, and Carolyn, you get a hat.
Sweet.
You probably have both of these things at home, don't you?
Yeah.
You already do. And Dave, you get to take home a T-shirt. We're going to give you some T-shirt stuff because we have prizes for everybody. John and Gooch, you get nothing.
Thank you.
You get a Free FM keychain, which is also a bottle opener.
You can keep it.
And a Free FM mom sticker.
You know, I think I can donate my hat over to John.
You going to donate it to John?
Yeah,
all right, you,
I think
John,
I'll do that.
You get a Downtown Joe's hat, courtesy of Carolyn. Congratulations. Good work, everybody, for our first ever Beer Jeopardy live from Downtown Joe's. We're going to be taking a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to start talking about how to take care of your beer, from the fermenter to the bottle or keg. Colin's got all the lowdown on how to take care of that stuff. We'll be right back. Hang in there.
You're listening to the Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
The Brewing Network, saving your life.
One beer at a time.
Welcome back to the Brewing Network, broadcasting live from Downtown Joe's right here in downtown Napa. If you're in the area, come on out and join us. The beer is flowing and it's real tasty. And I'm sure that really soon here, somewhere in the world, it's going to be midnight. And Colin likes to, make everybody have a toast where it's midnight somewhere in the world. So I'm sure that's got to be coming up. Or noon, as long as it's 12. As long as it's 12 of some form or another. We're going to get into our beer discussion here in just a moment, but I want to take a second to say, and Danielle, I'm sure that you can relate to this as well, and you're in the chat room there, so at least you're a little closer, but as much as I like coming out and doing these things, I think it's a lot of fun to come do remotes and have a Beer Jeopardy like that where everybody gets involved and hang out and be in the new places. I really feel detached from our listeners when we do it for too long, because we've done it for a couple of weeks now, and I love our listeners, and they're a huge part of our show when they're calling in and having fun with us and doing that whole thing. So I just want to give a special hello and a thank you, and we're thinking about you to you listeners who do the participation part and really like it when we're in the studio because we feel closer to you. We're still thinking about you even though we're out here, and we're going to be back there in 2 weeks with John Palmer is going to be in the studio with us. We're going to be doing a show, and you're going to get to phone up to our regular number and Skype in and do everything that you always do. So I just wanted you to know that even though it might feel like we're a million miles away, we're really only like 500,000 miles away.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
If you do think closely about it, it's really pretty good.
The only thing I don't like is that I have to operate here on 5 inches of space.
Yeah,
and I'm going to be falling off the stage very soon.
Now you have the least amount of desk space.
Now you know what I've been doing my whole adult life.
But you can, I don't know what that means.
Operating on 5 inches of space?
I see. But you can join us in the chat room just the same as always. And of course, Daniela is in there with you. And I've got some questions that came in via email for Colin already. But you can join us in the chat room. Just hit the Chat Now button right on our homepage, as always, and send our questions through. And that way you'll be able to ask all the things that you normally like to. Just join us there. And like I said, we'll be back home in 2 weeks, and then everyone can call and have all the normal fun that we do. Colin has taken us away from you for just a short period of time.
It's been a lot of fun, but if I need to run a phone line just to keep you guys here. We can do that too.
Then we'll have to
give you your own downtown Joe's phone number.
See, maybe we need to do that, and that way I'll still feel because I have separation anxiety is what ends up happening. And
then for the off time, you can go back to slinging beers.
Yeah,
Brewing Network is Justin. Oh, you want a beer on table 4?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
exactly. You can test your equipment with us even when we're doing on location things, and make sure your doorbell works.
I think it's 12 o'clock somewhere.
Is it? Danielle is telling me that I'm driving tonight, except that I'm being handed a beer that it's 12.
You're driving, that's the deal.
So it's 12, and what am I going to do? You can only yell at me so much in one night before I stop, listening.
You're driving.
Let's go ahead and turn that microphone off. And it's now 12 somewhere in the world, huh, Colin? And,
it is now 12.
What happens at Downtown Joe's is the staff gathers around for fun and mayhem, and we all chug a beer at 12 somewhere in the world. I urge you folks at home to also consume a glass of beer.
John Foster, come here.
During this short moment of dead air.
L'Chaim.
Hold, please.
Daniela.
So, I don't know if you're familiar with the toast L'Chaim. Basically, it means bottoms up from right to left.
Really? Thank you, JP. Proving that the toast is over. All right.
Did I ruin a moment? I'm sorry.
Not at all. I think that was touching in its own right.
I was just trying to get back to the microphone first.
I appreciate that. All right, so join us in the chat room because we're about to start talking about essentially conditioning and preparing your beer. And Colin's going to help us out with that because he's found that in different competitions, an otherwise perfectly good beer has been ruined from at some point or another, or from some part of the process, from the time it leaves the fermenter to the time it ends up in a vessel. And I'm hoping that we can talk not only about bottles, but about kegging as well, Colin.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good enough, because I think we've got a pretty split audience out there.
Well, good. After bottling, 260 bottles with my assistant and I, basically sitting on a keg in a 40-degree room, bottling out of a sample cock, I can say that kegging is my favorite.
Yeah, he said sample cock. Kegging is a lot more fun. The beer he's talking about is you put your wet-hopped beer into champagne bottles. We were talking about it during the FM show. So you had to do a lot of bottling, just 240 bottles it was?
And literally we did it exactly like a homebrewer, 260 I think it was.
You did, okay.
And it was just like a homebrewer would. I mean, literally opened a spigot on a tank, let it gravity feed into a bottle, closed it off, added some priming sugar, put a cork in it, tied a basket on it, had to spray adhesive onto Kinko's labels.
So not even a counter pressure filler, just poured it straight in.
Well, yeah, we wanted to bottle condition it for a couple of reasons. We wanted to make sure that that we scavenge the oxygen out of the headspace.
Okay.
And having active yeast will do that.
Okay.
And because I couldn't convince myself I could get an oxygen-free transfer out of one of my tanks.
Okay.
I don't have a bottling line like a big factory.
Right.
And, I have a counter-pressure bottle filler, but I don't have enough experience with it. I've only done maybe 100 bottles with it.
Okay.
And, that's fine if I'm entering a competition or taking bottles home. But to sell to my customers, I need 100% perfection.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to get back to everything you just said, because that's kind of the meat of the situation here. But I want to start with fermentation and the end of fermentation, because one of the things that I'm concerned about is making beer that has some longevity in whatever we put it in. And I think that starts before we ever even put it into a vessel.
Well, and it does. A little bit of it starts in the brew house, and that's why they talk about hot side aeration. I'm not as concerned about hot side aeration as the big places like Anheuser-Busch.
Okay.
But I am concerned about hot side aeration. And the reason being is once those oxygen molecules start to make an affinity for another molecule, that takes that molecule out of its ability to ever grab another oxygen molecule.
Okay.
And
that's what happens during that. What is hot side aeration, so that people know?
That's when you splash your wort around, and so you normally, for centuries we didn't think that getting air into wort was a problem.
Yeah.
Because it's so hot, air doesn't dissolve very well into it.
Okay.
But it turns out that the little tiny bit that does dissolve into it is really active, and it grabs onto some really important molecules.
And is there a temperature threshold that we're talking about here? Is it over 90 degrees? Is it over 120 degrees? What's the hot side?
Well, I consider the hot side anything before the wort chiller.
Okay. So even over 80 degrees can be hot side aeration you're talking about?
Well, yeah, except, for me there's a pretty sharp break between 180 and 70.
But, so if we're if we're out of the mash, okay, if we're mashing at, say, 150...
I definitely worry about it in the mash.
That's definitely somewhere we can get it. If we just dump that stuff out without maybe running a hose to the bottom of our vessel so it doesn't splash.
Sure, and when you read these papers that are being written by the scientists studying this, they're going to the extent of flushing the grain mill with nitrogen so that the husks don't trap air in it.
Okay.
In order to do some of these experiments. And so, some of these things might end up in production facilities and some might not.
Okay.
I personally, I'm not as concerned as Budweiser, but I do pay attention to it.
Okay.
What about aerating even your sparge water?
Well, again, hot water doesn't like to pick up water. And no, I actually do make sure I don't aerate my sparge water. I have an inch of water above my grain bed, and I drop the sparge head, arm is kind of the wrong word, my sparge head, below that level.
Oh, you do?
Oh, so it's actually submerged under your cushion space.
No kidding.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Huh,
I don't drop the water at all.
That's interesting. I've actually never seen that.
No.
And I'll tell you what, aside from hot side aeration, you know what I've worried about when I was fly sparging is how much temperature I'm losing, because it's with my sparge arm, it's a really small stream of water, and it's traveling through 4 inches of air before it gets to the... And I was always wondering, if it starts at 170, and it's this tiny stream of water, what is it by the time it's going through my grain bed?
Well, earlier you were saying you're using a 10-gallon GOT cooler.
Yeah.
And when I had to use that same setup, I mounted my sparge arm through a hole in the lid, and I sparged blind.
Okay.
And which is a challenging thing to do, but at least I kept the temperature in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, okay, so while we're on the hot side aeration too, I want to bring up a point that I've heard people talk about, and that's that some people aren't convinced that hot side aeration exists. That it's not definitive enough. The science isn't done deciding that yes, it actually happens. Have you heard these?
Absolutely. Okay. One of my favorite beer scientists is trying to disprove hot side aeration. That's Charlie Bamforth over at UC Davis.
Okay.
And he thinks it's all the results of one researcher. Well, I'm not up to... last time I talked to him about it was about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot of research since then. My guess is he's going to find what the rest of us has found, and that is there's the middle of the road. You certainly can go overboard with hot side aeration, but you also don't need to flush all your grain in nitrogen either.
Sure. And by the way, if only one researcher invented Viagra, I'd still believe in it.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That means you've tried it, right?
Yes. and I'm just saying that, the proof isn't in the numbers. The proof is in the pudding.
So to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. And when we look at the papers that are coming out about all of this, really what they want to do is take a beer and have it be on a warm store shelf for 6 months.
Okay. And then decide for ourselves if it's there or not.
Yeah, well, in my situation, I have control over my beer until it gets into the glass, so I'm not real concerned about that. Yeah. It's never going to be above 40 because it's in my aging tank.
Sure. Okay, so as a rule, though, we're going to try to avoid hot side aeration.
It's a good thing to think about.
Okay, just in case it is real, and it sounds like a lot of the research shows that it is.
Well, I don't think it's anything extra you really have to do. I mean, you just have to
don't splash.
Yeah, pay careful attention, and that's it. I mean, that's what you're doing anyway.
Well, and it's also good practice for the most important time you don't want to splash, and that's after you fermented the beer.
Okay,
because little tiny bits of oxygen at this point make a huge change in the flavor.
Absolutely, and we'll be talking about that when we get to it too. What else in our process here before we've gone to the fermenter, aside from hot side aeration, are we looking at for a longevity of beer? And I guess, and you guys know what I mean, I just want to be clear about it. Some things that you've done wrong don't show up in your beer for several months. And this is kind of the things that you were talking about, Colin, that a home brewer can bottle a great beer, but by the time it gets to somebody else, these changes have happened.
Well, Brian Hunt at Moonlight Brewing, when I was learning to brew, taught me one of my favorite things to try to reiterate to home brewer, and that is, if you don't leave crumbs around, you don't get rats. And you don't want to leave any food sources in your beer that might attract something that you don't want in your beer.
Okay.
So one of the things that we do is we try to leave all of our break in the kettle, because that's a big protein source for things that are going to want to try to live in our beers later on.
Okay.
Would those proteins be easier to eat than the sugars? Would they be easier?
Well, we're assuming that the yeast has eaten most of the sugar. And so now it's got to find an alternative food source. Well, for any alternative food source, we're going to find an organism that can consume it.
Okay.
Now, there's a very short list of things that can live in beer, but some of them can live on protein.
It's really an awesome point, because you're just in organisms, and like everything, you're just talking about survival of the fittest. So your point here is excellent, that as soon as they run out of the readily available food, you're just going to go looking for some other non-readily available.
And the ones that can adapt live, and the ones that can't adapt are gone. And we don't care about the ones that can adapt.
Sure.
But unfortunately, some of them do adapt.
They do, and those might be the ones that are going to feed on the protein or something else. Okay.
Or something else that you've left, yeah.
So transferring as clean of a wort as possible, and we've said that before as common knowledge, but it's really important for these kind of, if you're talking about longevity.
And this is one of the things that that listeners should remember. If you hear 5 different speakers on this radio show all telling you the same thing, it's because it's something that we're seeing that people aren't doing, and it's something that we think is important.
Well, unless I say it, and then it's like reading Wikipedia. You should check somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I just want to clarify, like if you have bacteria and you have a protein and you have a sugar, what's the bacteria going to eat first? Is it going to go for the protein, the more readily? You know what I mean? Are those chains more able to broken down by the bacteria?
It's not as simple as an on and off decision. Okay, so you're going to have 5 billion cells. And some of those cells are going to say, hey, this sugar's a lot easier to eat. And some of them are going to say, hey, you know what? I got some protein around. I'm going to try some protein.
Okay.
And so it isn't as cut and dry. And when you look at the curves, before the sugar's all the way gone, the protein is starting to be eaten.
Okay.
All right. Perfect. So a nice clean transfer. And here we're talking about things like a good whirlpool. And now some people have sent in questions to us talking about, hey, I did a whirlpool and I still didn't get the results, and I whirlpooled for 10 minutes and then I went ahead and transferred. We've talked about on here doing a whirlpool and letting things settle for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes.
How long you need to settle is dependent on the height of your kettle.
Okay.
So my kettle's roughly 6 feet tall.
All right.
And I have to settle for 45 minutes. If I settle for 30 minutes, I don't get enough of the break left in the kettle.
Okay.
And settling any longer, I don't get any more.
Okay.
So I use kettle finings to make a more compact settlement. The only reason I do that is because it gives me a little bit more yield out of the kettle.
Okay.
I don't do that because I get a better settle or anything. It's just a little more compact at the bottom.
That makes sense.
I use a product called Whirlflock.
As do we. Homebrewers use it all the time too, and actually knowing that we get more out of the kettle is a great point, because we want to do the same thing, even though it's a small scale.
Well,
we still want all that
for
work.
me, I find if I can get an extra 5 gallons out of every brew, that's an extra 500 gallons a year.
Yeah,
and for me, that means 2 days I can stay home.
That's right.
Family, yeah.
And I can lose 5 gallons to my carpet and still have a little left to drink.
What did you clean that stain up with?
We have a steam cleaner, luckily, like that one of those, like a regular shampoo.
That's a random thing for you to have.
And,
so you plan.
But it's a good point. Like it's we plan on anything stupid to happen around me is what we do. So we have a number of safeguards in place, fire extinguishers, etc.
Is that why the studio's padded, just so in case you knock around in it?
Yeah, that isn't soundproofing. It's just in padding.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you asked that, because it was a porter that we lost onto my carpet, which is a white carpet essentially. Okay. Now a couple of things that I just want to mention about getting clean beer from the kettle, and they're things we've talked about on the show. So along with your whirlpool, one thing you might want to think about going to your homebrew shop and asking them to do is put in a diverter plate. And John Plissé actually taught me about the diverter plate. He has a great one on his kettle. And a diverter plate will it's basically about an inch away from your spout outlet, and it allows that sediment that that's built up into a cone from your whirlpool to stay behind the plate, and less chance of it being sucked through the spout.
Right.
So that's a great one.
It gives you a little bit more knockout out of the kettle, and I have a diverter plate that I use as well.
You do, even on your large kettle. Okay,
yeah. I love mine. It's great.
Cool. And now something that I use and that we've talked about before. In fact, I got an email about it this week. Someone asking about my results is something like a hop stopper. It's a product. It's that's their name for it. The brand name is the Hop Stopper, and essentially it's just a piece of copper tube that goes from the spout to about the middle of my kettle, which is a converted keg, and then has a big screen all around. It's just a big mesh, a wire mesh screen, and I've had nothing but great results with it.
I've brewed with one of those myself, actually.
You did? Okay.
But before they existed, that technology existed.
Okay.
And I brewed with it, and I had great results with it as well.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to have, and for me, my Whirlpool actually only matters in terms of cooling down my wort, because I want it to pass all around my chiller, which is why am I drawing a blank on what it's called?
Immersion chiller.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's why I want a Whirlpool. With something like the Hop Stopper, it doesn't matter if the stuff is in the center or everywhere, because that mesh screen is what's keeping it out.
Well, and Jamil gave me a really good lesson the last time you guys were here, and that is at 70 degrees, which is where I cool my wort to.
Yeah.
Or Vert, if you're from Germany.
Vert.
Then
which we're not, thank God.
There's still a lot of trube left.
Yeah.
So trying to keep that out is a good thing.
It is. Okay, so there's just a couple of methods to transfer a nice clean wort, and that's, I guess, step one. Where are we going to from there?
Well, of course,
now we're in our fermenter.
We want to add oxygen getting into our fermenter.
Right.
Of course. But we don't want to add pre-fermentation. We don't ever want to add oxygen after fermentation. At any point that there's alcohol, we don't want to add any oxygen.
So even once it's begun, so we're talking right from the beginning of fermentation, we don't want to add oxygen.
Here's a common discussion I have in the professional world, and one of the things that we do a lot in the professional world is double batch. So what you'll do is you'll have a 7-barrel brew house like mine, but you'll have a 14-barrel fermenter.
Okay.
So you'll brew 7 barrels in the morning, and then you'll oxygenate that, and then you'll brew 7 barrels in the afternoon, and you won't oxygenate that, because even in that 4-hour gap, you're worried that there's enough alcohols in there that you're going to start causing problems.
Ah, fair enough. And that's an excellent point. But that's also because you're doing these huge starter pitches. So it even over 4 hours, you're probably assuming you've started fermentation with the amount of yeast that you're pitching.
Yeah. I usually close the door to my office by 6 or 7 at night.
Gotcha.
And when I come back in at 8 the next morning, I always have a extremely vigorous fermentation. Sometimes I'm already
vigorous on this show.
Extremely vigorous fermentation. And often it's already blowing off, and I have about 45% headspace.
Wow.
On my fermenters.
Okay, so
you have 45% headspace?
I do. I have 10-barrel fermenters, and I only fill them to 7 barrels.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Sorry.
You're all right, JP. You okay?
I'm good. I need a towel. I'm getting the vapors over here.
You needed a paper towel.
I do.
Okay. As long as you're good.
I'm golden.
Join us in the chat room. Just a reminder, you can ask all your questions there. And we're talking about how to make sure that your beer stays healthy and tasty, from the time that you brew it to the time that we're going to be drinking it out of whatever vessel we're talking about. So proper aeration and then not aerating too late. If fermentation has begun, forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. And people, we used to run into this problem at Beer More Beer all the time. You get this phone call, hey, my fermentation's stuck, what do I do? Well, the truth of the matter is your fermentation's stuck because the yeast wasn't healthy enough when you pitched it.
Okay.
Or it got too cold.
Okay.
All you can really do is warm it up. And if it's somewhere below 68 for an ale, you need to bring it back up to 68.
Okay.
That's pretty much all you can do. You can try to rouse it by shaking it up or something.
Yeah.
Personally, that's not my favorite choice. I would prefer the yeast to get back into solution and find its own happy medium.
Than for you to have to do it yourself.
Yeah, because there's some dead things at the bottom of your fermenter that you don't really want to stir back in.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, before we move on, because we've already gotten to the fermenter part, I had a question come through about a no-chill method that one of our listeners uses, and he wanted your opinion on it specifically. Okay. He said he wanted me to ask Colin, since we're addressing different contamination issues. He said he's wondering what you think about a no-chill wort production. He wants to know what sort of contamination issues should be considered, and your thoughts in general concerning the method. And I guess basically he doesn't chill his wort. He just
It's not a method. That's the lack of a method.
It's the lack of.
Well, no, that's not necessarily.
Well, some people though just don't want to chill and they just transfer and call it a day.
So think about this.
People do that?
Yeah. What?
You take your boiling wort, you put it in a stainless fermenter because you wouldn't want to heat up a carboy that hot. Okay, and then what you do is you have it completely sanitized and sealed during the whole natural chilling process. Sorry about that. So if you do that, then what you're really doing is creating an artificial force test, and that's the issue with it.
Oh yeah, okay.
Well, do you ever do force testing?
No, I don't. I don't know what it is.
So a force test is basically you sanitize a vessel.
Yeah.
You take some of your wort and you leave it in there for 3 or 4 days. And make sure it doesn't ferment.
I have done that. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a force test. So basically, what he's doing is an artificial force test, and then at some point, 24 hours later,
exactly,
he can pitch his heat.
Yeah. That's what they're saying. That they'll go ahead and just transfer it to something like a plastic bucket because maybe it's too hot for glass.
Sure.
They'll seal the bucket.
Yeah.
And then wait for it to be pitching temp and then go ahead and pitch.
Okay, so sealing, I need to mention this right away because sealing a bucket is a really bad idea because there are certain organisms that can live in an anaerobic environment that can't possibly live with air.
Okay.
And they're really dangerous organisms. You don't ever take anything hot and seal it and then refrigerate it.
Interesting.
You don't do that with chicken. You don't do that with old pizza.
Okay.
Do not ever create a vacuum.
So in this case, maybe just foil or saran wrap over the top would be better.
Saran wrap and a rubber band or something like that.
Or just put the lid on but don't snap it on.
That exactly right.
Okay.
What you want to do is cover it.
Yeah.
And air's going to come back in, and if air can't come back in, you're going to create a vacuum.
Okay.
And create a dangerous situation.
A
life-threatening dangerous situation.
Like botulism and
E. coli.
All that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's
Who knows what botulism? Okay.
Well, see, so how does that method, and forgive me if I'm stepping on your answer, but a lot of things in brewing, I've been doing it for like 10 years, I counted the other day, which is scary, because I still don't know what I'm doing.
You're 22 years old now, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know where that came from. There's a lot of stuff in brewing that kind of contradicts itself. And to me, that seems like a walking contradiction of let's just let it stay warm and cool down naturally for 24 hours. Well, meanwhile, most people are wetting their pants because they don't have fermentation in 4.
Okay, but so now let's take a look at this, though. So one of the reasons why we get contaminations is inside our wort chillers. So if we eliminate the wort chiller out of the situation, they're finding a solution to a problem. Now, it's not my choice of a solution, but it is finding a solution to a problem. And, I don't know how I would deal with it. If I was a home brewer and trying to do that, you need to make sure you never are under negative pressure. So I'd be rigging up something to flush with nitrogen or something crazy like that.
If you're not rigging up anything crazy, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, which would be more complicated than actually just sanitizing a wort chiller.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the issue here isn't whether or not people want to chill their wort. It's some people who are just starting and who are on more of a limited budget. They don't have a chiller in the beginning.
Okay, so when I didn't have a chiller, we filled the bathtub with water and a bag of ice.
And I've done the same.
I put it in the sink when I didn't have one.
And we took the boil kettle and we swirled it around in the bathtub.
Okay, so maybe some people are just lazy.
Well, no, I really do think they found a clever solution that has its own problem.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So there you go. That's your answer of the no chill method. We got to take a break. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna move forward and talk about more things that you can do to protect your beer and process it properly before you get to the container, portion of your beer. So,
can I just say how impressed I am with myself that I know things?
Yeah,
thank you.
You can say that.
Okay, I'm impressed with myself because I know things.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Everyone else is very impressed with you too, JP.
Thank you.
All right. Hang in there, everybody. You're tuned to the Brewing Network. We're at Downtown Joe's live tonight. Come on out and join us. We're here for another couple of hours, and Colin's helping us learn how to package our beer. Hang in there.
You're listening to the Brewcasters. The Brewcasters on the Brewing Network. Out of Brewcast. This is the Brewing Network.
Welcome back to the Brewcast, broadcasting live from Downtown Joe's in Napa. And we're going to be here next week, too, so if you're in the area and you haven't made plans yet, come out and join us next week. We're having a lot of fun out here.
If Gucci can make it, you can make it.
That's right. Although Gucci has his own plane.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. Well, it's not his own. Actually, it belongs to us.
Oh, taxpayer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he just uses it whenever he wants to and flies all over.
He just threw a gang sign.
He's very gangsta-like, Gucci is. Check this out. He's very mob-like even. I was talking about getting a guest on the show, and I was like, well, the guest is in California, but like far away. And Gucci's like, I could fly him. I could just fly him in. And I'm like, are you kidding? What is this? The mafia or something?
In case you didn't know, I have an airplane.
And I was thinking, how crazy is it that I can call somebody up and go, would you want to do the show? Well, it's really far. Oh, don't worry, I'll send a plane. What is happening around here?
Send a plane. Well, then, can you pay for a hotel? No, we're broke.
No, we can't. No, I can't give you a hotel. No place to stay. But I'll definitely send a plane.
Yeah. You pay your taxes, right? Yeah. Well, you got a plane too.
How weird is that? And then Gucci shows up and they're like, that's our pilot? I'm like, yeah, don't worry, he's fine.
Welcome to Airplane Airlines.
Yeah.
I'd get in a plane with him.
Get on my back, I'll fly you. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
He's got that weird twitch, and one eye flutters a lot.
Is there turbulence, Captain? No, I'm just twitching.
No, I
need a beer.
It's my twitchy right
DTs.
arm.
When I was learning to fly gliders, my glider instructor would get into the glider ahead of me so he could suck oxygen for about 20 minutes to get rid of his hangover.
Nice. He's like, okay, I'm ready. Don't talk too loud. Just go. And don't look at me. Okay. Let's fly.
Yes,
don't
please.
Bounce on the runway.
All right. Before we move on, I had a question that came through that was kind of a random question that I think we can throw in here. But now I have to find it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Now, here it is. So this person was transferring what he calls, or she, maybe, a delicious hoppy amber to secondary. They were transferring it to secondary. And accidentally left about half to 3/4 of a cup of iodophor in the carboy.
Oops.
Sounds like my Star Sand beer that everyone likes to make fun of me for doing it. He wants to know if this batch is poison now, or can he just go ahead and keg it?
I don't think so.
You know, poison's probably not the right word. Will he be able to taste iodine? I would say absolutely. I've tasted poorly rinsed bottles that I could taste iodine in.
Okay.
You can taste it in some bars. You
really?
go to and they still have the sanitizer. They give you the glass, out of the sanitizer, and the mix is all off.
Yeah.
And it tastes like sanitizer.
A very famous local brewery here, when they first opened, sent out some samples to a bunch of bars, all of which were iodine contaminated because they were
overzealous.
They were overzealous, and they didn't want to wait till the iodine dried out of the bottles.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Man.
Well, being that it's an amber, though, he might have gotten a really great color from the half a cup of iodine that he left in there.
Yeah, it's really good. Don't drink it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it'll kill you, but
okay.
I'm really sorry. Get some more grain and brew again.
Okay. And just take that one and pour it out on your carpet.
Yeah. Do what I do.
All right, I hear beer makes good shampoo.
It does. It's that's right. You can wash. JP knows all about it.
I do. Yes, I do.
Washing your hair with good beer.
Yes, I do.
Is that why he's bald?
Yes. Well, at least you could do is have a party and then bring that out when everyone's had at least 4 beers.
Yeah.
So then your palate's toast anyway.
Yeah.
Here, try this homebrew. It's beer, bro. Yeah, right.
Or if somebody cuts themselves, you can pour that beer on.
There you go. There you go.
And it's sure to clean it. So, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start talking about ways to prep your beer to be put into a vessel, whether it be kegs or bottles, and not just prep your beer, but also prep those vessels that you're going to put things into. So, why don't we go ahead and start with that?
Okay, so one of the things I need to say is that I don't really like what filters do to my beer.
You don't filter.
So I try not to filter. I don't own a filter in this brewery. I've tried to not ever filter my home brews.
Really? Look at that.
However, having a clear beer, I think, is extremely important to flavor.
Yeah.
Because each of the hazes you can get have their own flavor.
Okay.
And one of the common ones I see, especially now in West Coast style brewing, is polyphenol hazes, which there's polyphenols that are derived from wort. but there's also polyphenols that are derived from, or from barley rather. There's also polyphenols that are derived from hops. With these really high hopping regimes that I and other people like to use, you end up with polyphenol hazes. Well, a polyphenol haze tastes like tannins. So it's hard to tell if you've oversparged your grain or if you've added too much hops or you just haven't let the polyphenol haze settle.
Okay.
And it has a distinct flavor. It's a flavor of tea. And I've found beers that, gosh, if you just settled that out, it would be beautiful.
Okay.
And the traditional way to settle that out is lots of time and isinglass. It turns out that you can speed that up by adding PVPP or silica, both of which are available to homebrewers.
Okay. And where are we putting, so the isinglass and the silica, where in the process are these things going in?
Well, if I had to do it, I would do it in what you guys would call the secondary.
Okay.
I actually do it in my aging tanks and then rack off of them on the way to the faucet.
So that's basically your secondary, though, your
That's
aging tank.
basically my secondary.
You've gone from the fermenter to an aging tank.
Right.
And then into a serving vessel.
And sometimes I mix the findings in during the transfer.
Okay.
Sometimes I mix the findings in the tank. But really what you're trying to do is settle out all the hazes. And you know, if we look at four kinds of hazes, you can have a polyphenol haze, which is usually hop derived in the way we brew. You can have a starch haze, which means you didn't mash correctly, and there's nothing you can really do to fix that. You can have a yeast haze, which is simply because your yeast didn't flocculate well, and time usually cures that.
Okay.
Usually time will cure yeast haze. And then you can have...
Is that lagering time, though?
Lagering time, sure.
What about bottles that are just sitting on the shelf? Will that cure yeast haze, too?
Well, you want to have them cold. Yeast wants to drop out cold.
Okay.
It should drop out earlier, but...
cold's the best way.
Cold's the best way.
Okay.
And then the fourth kind of haze is what we would call, under a broad category, biological hazes. And that just means you got contaminated with something that's not going to settle out no matter what you did.
Okay.
Now, can you find a biological haze out? Yeah, probably you could.
Yeah.
But it probably already did damage.
It's like choosing who you're going to date. Like, could you have figured out that it's probably going to burn when you use the restroom afterward? Yes.
Absolutely.
You probably could have figured that out had you talked to her for 5 more minutes.
Talk about biological
haze. 3
haze.
less beers that night.
Yeah. Speaking of biological, that's your biological haze in that case is too many beers.
Yeah.
And but same thing, with beer. You could just be a little patient, take a little more time.
That's what I was telling you at the break about carbonating at 30 psi. Wait a little bit.
That's nonsense.
Well, and here's one of the things I really could say is that 21 days of gravity will cure a lot of things.
Okay.
And taking your secondary, chilling it down as cold as you can get it, 40 degrees, 32 degrees, and just leaving it for 21 days, that's an amazing thing for beer flavor.
Okay.
What you find is a lot of the complicated molecules will start to link into longer chains.
Yeah.
The bad ones settle out, the good ones stay in. It helps your head retention, and it helps your flavor, and it helps your flavor stability.
Okay. So here's what I'm interested in, because we're talking about then transferring a clean beer to whatever our serving vessel is going to be. We're not just leaving behind yeast. We're talking about the haze that you're talking about is often of different sorts of a protein haze, right?
Well, proteins and polyphenols bind together.
Okay.
So they become one,
okay,
and they drop to the bottom.
And that's what we want to go away. So
yeah,
we want yeast, proteins, polyphenols.
That's pretty much it if we did everything clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we're that's what we're getting rid of when we transfer a clean beer.
That's our goal, right? And when you look through your carboy and it's perfectly clean, and perfectly clear, then you've done a really good job of aging.
Okay.
That was your job during aging, was to clarify that beer.
Okay. And now if you're a kegger, and we'll go into how to keg your beer, but if you do keg, you could go the Jamil method, which is my method too. We don't do a secondary. Our keg is our secondary.
And that's how this works in my brewery too. After 1 week of fermentation, I go into my aging tank. Okay. And then what I do is basically the same thing you could do by taking a Cornelius and taking a 1/2 inch off the dip tube.
Okay.
I just simply draw a little bit above the bottom.
Okay.
So that I'm not taking in the things that settle into the into the product.
Well, what about even if you, because I don't trim my dip tube and I still just have my secondary as a keg. I mean, couldn't you just, the first couple beers that you pour are going to have all that come out? Isn't it better even just to, because you're then getting it out of the keg altogether, aren't you?
Well, and that is a good thing. So let's think of some of the things that could be in the bottom. If you have yeast at the bottom, it could autolysize over a long time.
Yeah.
Even at cold temperatures, yeast can autolysize.
Okay.
So if you were trying to say take a barley wine, you'd absolutely want to try to get that out.
Yeah.
It's probably better to rack one more time.
Yeah, because you're not, but even if you're drawing it out, you're not going to get it all out.
Right. Okay. So if it was a beer I wanted to keep a year, I maybe would add an extra transfer.
Okay.
But that's only if I could guarantee that I could transfer oxygen free.
Okay.
Because oxygen's way worse than any of these things we're talking about.
Okay. With a keg, you can, though.
You can do a closed system transfer.
Yep.
And we need to talk about that when we get to this, too, because I definitely had some questions come through. I don't know how to do a closed system transfer, and I keg. So I think it'd be good to talk about how to do that.
And the worst kind of closed system transfer you could do kept all the sediment in it.
Oh,
so
right.
You need to think about that,
it just pulled it all over from one to the next. And so that might be a good reason to have the shortened...
in an aging vessel, especially if you're dry hopping.
Yeah.
In that aging vessel.
Yeah. I'm trying to go a whole show without making a dip tube joke.
It's hard. I've snickered. But yeah.
Hey, I get to say sample cock every day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you're fine. I made a sample cock joke. I'm trying not to make a dip tube joke.
No.
You know? I mean, if Doc's not here, then I feel like we might get through a whole show without a dip tube joke.
You said dip tube.
That's Doc. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why we need a phone line, just so I can hear Doc say that.
I'm telling you, put him on speakerphone, put a microphone down to the speakerphone.
Yeah.
I can put my cell phone on speakerphone.
Get him here one way or another. You know he's miserable at home right now.
Oh, yeah. Don't throw up there. Don't touch your brother. Don't hit him like that. What are you doing? Get off the thing.
He's home with the kids, and he's thinking, I could be drunk right now at Downtown Joe's and spewing my words of wisdom.
He probably loaded his kids on, like, children's NyQuil, and he's half-hammered right now anyway.
Yeah. I like listening with my pants on my ankles. I just made that up.
It's a good one.
Okay, so clean beer is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
then.
you know,
and the use of isinglass and silica.
And I just want to say that it's my opinion, and not everybody agrees with me, but it's certainly my opinion that clear beer tastes better.
Okay, and both the isinglass and the silica, you're saying, could be added into the secondary vessel?
Yeah, personally, I use PVPP.
Yeah.
But only if I've done heavy dry hopping regimes.
Okay.
So 5 pounds of dry hops and 7 barrels.
Yeah.
Then I need to get something more than isinglass into the mix.
And
or else it's going to taste like tannins. Okay. And then I'll use PVPP, yeah.
What if, if my method is just to go from the fermenter to the keg, or others will go from the fermenter to a bottling bucket to the bottle, could you add the isinglass just to your after fermentation, but it's still in the primary? Could you put it in there and get results?
You need to use isinglass at the coldest temperature the product's ever going to be.
Okay.
Because any haze that's not visible when you add your findings stays in and becomes a chill haze later on.
Okay.
So if you, like I serve at 40, my ideal finding temperature would be 35.
Below what you serve.
Below, because then I'll never have a chill haze. Well, I can't do that here. So I find once at 45 because it was easier that day.
Yeah.
And then I chilled it down to 40, and I had the most perfectly created chill haze you've ever seen.
See, that's that's such a logical point, because if you clarify at 68 degrees, which is where you're doing your ale, but then you go ahead and chill it down for serving to 44,
you're going to have a chill haze. In fact, you're going to have taken out all of the other molecules that would have taken your chill haze out.
I see.
So you've made a better chill haze than even before you started.
You did something right.
I see. I could probably do that. Basically, I could screw it up the best.
Yes. There's a California brewery that makes their Hefeweizen that exact way.
Oh, really?
They fine at 68 and make a chill haze, and
just so it has the cloud.
Hefe means yeast.
Yeah.
And so a Hefe's supposed to be a yeast haze.
Sure.
But they actually have a chill haze that's so cloudy that you think it's a yeast haze.
See, but
a great point.
Yeah, warm it up, it's crystal clear.
A lot of the problems I think with bottling is that you can't do some of this stuff. So in actuality, what you're saying is that you can't use findings when you're bottling.
Not in the bottle.
No, but even pre-bottled, because
Sure
then you don't have enough yeast in suspension, right? Because it's all crashed down to the bottom. Or how if let's say John made a really bad pale ale and he wanted to clarify it, and he was bottling, would he clarify like at 40, chill it down to 40, then clarify it? Then how would he get the yeast?
Rack off it into the bottling bucket?
And then how would he get enough yeast in there?
You know what? If you have enough time, there's always enough cells of yeast.
Even if you clarify,
even if you find,
really,
not if you sterile filter.
Oh wow!
But if you're going to sit there and let that beer sit for 3 weeks, I promise you your yeast is going to reactivate.
You hear that, John?
I like it when we talk about John like he's not in the room.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Well, he's not half the time. He's not listening anyway.
Yeah.
So.
You remember that time?
Well, who was that
John...
cute girl I saw him with?
I have a question for you. What about carpet haze? Do you have a method for?
Because I wrung the hell out of that carpet, and it's in a carboy right now.
Can I get rid of that?
Well, if your steam cleaner works really well, you'll have a Budweiser out of the runnings.
It's true. Chad, we should have kept the beer that you took from the carpet. We could have gone to Doc's and filtered it and had like a Bud or something out of it. A nice
isn't that how they make Bud Light?
Lawnmower beer. You know? Shit, Colin.
It's not lawnmower beer anymore. It's steam cleaning.
I have to call you before I take any drastic measures, including cleaning up my spills.
Yeah.
So, Colin, I got shit everywhere. What can I do to save it?
I can offend your sponsors on this show.
Equally,
right?
yeah, you can do it. And please try to offend them all at once. Yeah.
Because therein lies the challenge.
Okay, still getting questions coming through. I'm going to wait on that one because it's about kegging. Okay, so I think we've established to fine your beer as best you can so that you're transferring a nice cold beer.
Fine it, and that's either by adding additives or by just waiting and leaving it cold.
Okay.
And both of those things work.
Both will do that. Okay, so now we're going to go into a vessel. And let's just go ahead and start with one, and then we'll do the other. So
let's start with bottling.
Let's start with bottling, and I'm going to have John chime in on this when we get to it also. But before we talk about transferring to the bottle, can we talk about how to prepare the bottles properly for, we've already mentioned just talking about somebody leaving iodine because they didn't wait for it to dry out, different things. B3 sells, all homebrew shops sell things like bottle trees. Some people will tell you that that's ridiculous, you don't need that. I want to talk about all of these things. How do we prep our bottle?
Okay, so I when I was a homebrewer, had the craziest method for prepping a bottle, and I try to promote it because it's really effective as long as you do it exactly correct.
Okay.
What you do is you rinse your bottles out so that visually, shine a flashlight through them, there's nothing left.
Okay, so clean, they have to be clean.
They have to be clean.
And let's stop for just one second. I was explaining this to Chad, who's just starting to homebrew too, and we've said it on the show before, there's a difference between clean and sanitized. If you can see shit in there, it's not clean.
Okay, and here's what George Fix taught us, and it was a great lesson.
Okay.
You can't sanitize a turd.
There you go. Okay. And Doc says the same thing. You can't sanitize what isn't clean.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not the same thing.
They're two completely different things. So when Colin says to shine a light in there and make sure you can't see anything, well, that's clean.
Yeah, and I shine a light through the bottom of my glass, and I look through the opening.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that bottom is spotless.
Then, the spotless bottom means you can sanitize.
Okay, because then it's clean, and now we can move on to sanitize. Okay.
We all like a spotless bottom.
Make sure it's clean.
So I leave that last rinse water that I know was clean in it, and I stack all my bottles horizontally in my oven. And I warm my oven up to 200 degrees. And then I let it cool. I shut it off without opening the door and let it cool naturally. The first time you go, oh gosh, I wonder if they're cool yet, and you open the door, they all break.
Colin, I'm thinking right off the bat, guy like me, stay away from the oven.
Stay away from the oven, have some dinner, make out with a girlfriend, do whatever it takes.
All right, slow down. So we put it in at 200 degrees, and for how long?
By the time it cools down, it's sanitized. So it really only needs to be wet
just
heat.
Turn it up to 200, and then turn it off, and wait.
And wet heat kills, dry heat doesn't. So you need to make sure there's a little bit of water left in each bottle. So we've sanitized them. No, all we've done is rinse them. We just clean them. This is the sanitizing step. Oh, so you're not even using like 5-star stuff? You don't even need to use any chemical. You can rely on heat to kill.
See, I don't like you saying this to people. I'm uncomfortable with this whole process. I'd rather you have said, put them in some 5-star and hope for the best.
That's because it fits inside the box.
Yeah.
But I don't fit inside the box.
Okay. All right. Well, let's.
Colin's a little bigger.
So we've heard. All right. So let's go. So we clean it. We shine a light.
Okay. So so we clean it.
Yeah.
Then we want to sanitize it.
Okay.
So one method is to put it in an oven and heat it to 200 degrees.
Okay.
Then you don't have to worry about any chemicals.
Okay.
Okay. Then at that point you have to make sure that it's all the way cool, or they're going to crack on their own.
As soon as you open the door,
as soon as you open the door, you'll start hearing them pop.
Okay. You don't want that.
You don't want that unless you don't care about your bottles.
Okay.
Okay.
Or your
so
oven.
another way to do it would be to put iodophor in it and rinse it and put it on a bottle tree. At that point, you need to make sure that they're dry, because iodine completely flashes off before the water does.
Okay.
So once the iodine's gone, you're never going to taste anything else. There's nothing left behind.
Okay.
Okay. Iodophor is great rinser in that regard.
Now, what if we... oh, my goodness.
What if we choke on there?
Another thing we can use is Star San.
Now, that's what I'm
There
asking
you
about. Can we leave... if we use Star San, can it stay wet? Or do we want that to dry also?
I can't taste it if it's simply wet. I can taste it if there's a volume of liquid in the bottle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so that's the difference. Would I leave any on purpose? No. Have I left some on accident? Yes.
Well, you've left some on purpose. Because I remember,
I've done some spiking tests at
B3. like when we first got our first samples, Colin was the one who kind of tried everything out, and he had a carboy full of foam and racked on top of it.
And we couldn't taste that one.
No.
But then also what I did is I took pints of beer and I just started adding Star San until we could taste it.
Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, that was one of the things. Or either that or a late night at Regan's house. I can't remember which.
Your brain melts out of your ears.
So, because here's why I'm asking that question, is that me, and after Charlie came on our show, Charlie Talley from 5-Star, and talked about all this stuff, I'm more inclined to leave some foam to bottle wet if I'm using Star San, because to me it's an added protection, because anything that does happen to get into that bottle, if it's still wet with Star San, it's going to kill it still. So nothing, but if it dries out, if I wait for them to dry, I feel like I have more of an opportunity for contamination.
Well, there was this is a little bit of a long story, so bear with me.
Okay.
So there's a very famous piece of science history. And basically, they were trying to take meat broths, and they were trying to stop hazes from forming in them. And the idea was that the hazes were something living. And the big argument between the scientists of the day was that life is created spontaneously, and the other was life infects in. Well, now obviously we know that we need a living cell to infect in. But the person who finally proved this took a beaker, boiled his broth, and put an S-shaped tube on the top. That S-shaped tube made a complicated enough path that nothing could actually settle in out of the air.
Okay.
Now, it's my opinion that if I turn my bottle upside down, that's a complicated enough path that nothing's going to settle in.
Okay.
Yeah. I like bottling trees in that regard.
So a bottling tree would be good. I use my dishwasher, which is clean, by the way. Not with a load of dirty dishes.
No.
But after cleaning all the dishes, you can put the bottles in your dishwasher,
too. As Regan says, bacteria fall down. They don't fall down and go up and then under and then back down into something.
I used to say bacteria doesn't have little wings.
Okay, fair enough. So it doesn't swim, it doesn't fly. So okay, fair enough. So I guess with either way, with the Star San, it sounds like you don't want a puddle in there, but maybe it's okay if it's wet.
If you keep spiking if you keep spiking a beer, you will find that there is a flavor threshold, and you can detect it at some point.
Okay, fair enough. So clean, sanitized, and dry bottles. I had a question come through. Is this a serious question about the rubber on the bottom?
Yes.
Really? Is it yours? Whose question is it?
The rubber
baby. Medtech's question.
Medtech. Okay. Because I'm going to have to clarify what we're talking. We're talking about bottles here. And the question was, won't the rubber on the bottom melt if I put it in the oven? Not kegs. Don't put your kegs in the oven. We're only bottles. And we're only talking about bottles now, which don't have the rubber on the bottom.
No. There is a way to sanitize kegs with heat, too.
Okay, without melting the rubber on the bottom.
Without melting the rubber, yeah.
All right, we'll get to that then.
Put your brew system in the burner, in the oven.
Is MedTech Drunk of the Week again already?
No, I think it's a race between him and BC.
Ah, they're
fighting. They're
fighting.
bitch slapping each other.
No, if you're fighting, if you're drunk, then you're not drunk.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, they are drunk.
Okay, so that's preparing your bottles, is making sure they're clean, and then making sure they're sanitized. Keep them upside down in one form or another. And now we're going to go ahead and bottle. Now, you, Colin, like you were telling us about the champagne bottles, you did it. You just kind of gravity fed because you naturally carbonated.
Right. So one of the things that we can leave inside to protect ourselves is yeast, and I've just told that I'm out of IPA and I need to get to work.
To get back into it.
So the yeast is one of the things that will start consuming oxygen, and oxygen is one of the things that's going to cause us problems later on down the road.
Okay.
So one of the ways of doing that, and the way I chose with the Harvest Ale, was to not worry so much about flushing oxygen out of the bottle, but also make sure that I had a very active live yeast in every bottle.
Because that yeast will eat the oxygen in there?
It'll eat the oxygen and then consume the bottling sugars.
Okay. And will it eat the O2 first? Is that or does it not matter?
Well, the goal is that it does. It turns out in the bigger scheme of things, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
And if I wanted this beer to age for 10 or 15 years, there's no way I could have gotten away with what I did.
Okay.
So let's talk about this. There's a molecule that generally we classify in brewing as reductones.
Okay.
That means that they have reducing ability. They can bind to oxygen.
You know what's weird is that the first time you were on the show, this shit was all Greek to me, and I could just look at you like with a glazed over eye, and for some reason now it all makes sense. Go on, please.
That isn't my skill, that's yours.
Maybe you're more Greek than you thought.
So reductones are actually present in our beer, and there's a whole class of molecules.
Okay.
Every time one of those reductones gets used up by one of our oxygen molecules, it's out of the picture forever.
Okay.
There's nothing we can do to get it back.
All right.
So we don't want any of these reductones to get eaten up. That's why we were careful in hot side aeration.
Yeah.
That's why we're careful when we're transferring into our bottling bucket.
Okay.
And it's again why we're careful, why we want to cap onto foam when we go to cap our bottle.
Okay. And I find it interesting that because we're going to talk about two different ways to bottle here. I got John to help us out with the counter pressure filling.
Hi, John.
I'm really liking the part where you're saying that this, I think, is the key here to just gravity bottling. Is that if you are doing natural carbonation, which is adding corn sugar for the yeast to keep doing its work, that it's going to eat all of the volatiles that we don't want in there, so you don't have to purge your bottles of oxygen. You still want to cap on foam, like you're saying. But we don't have to worry so much about the O2 because it's going to be eaten.
Well, right. We've got another reducing source in there. We've got a living organism that's going to try to consume oxygen.
Okay.
Now, if we think about it, and I don't remember the exact number in my head. It's in a book right behind me. But it's something like 6 times more efficient for yeast to consume oxygen than it is to consume sugar.
Okay.
So it really wants to consume the oxygen.
Sure.
I mean, it's really trying hard because it's going to get a lot more ATP out of it.
Okay.
And ATP is the fuel of life. It is the energy source of life.
Okay.
And so it wants to make as much ATP as it can. It can do that much more efficiently by consuming oxygen than it can by consuming sugars.
Okay.
So it wants to do that first.
Okay. Okay. So that's definitely, if we're going to naturally carbonate, it's fine to not have to purge. We're going to go ahead and take care of these things, and you're probably going to be in good shape. If you cap on foam, like Colin has said.
And I would say, if I were in my world, I would say that's good enough for a year.
Okay, for a year's time. And after that, maybe
then we want to make some other changes. Yeah.
Okay. And now I've got John here because the other way to bottle is to have carbonated your beer already, which would mean that you keg your beer and you've carbonated it that way. And now we want to bottle it for competition or to take with us or anything else, and you can use a counter pressure filler. Mm-hmm. And you, John, you're like the counter pressure man because you force carbonate every beer you do.
I wait till they reach a point where they're perfect, where they pour perfectly, the equilibrium's perfect, everything.
Okay.
And then I will fill. I do it by taste, really. Once I feel the carbonation level's right, then I'll go ahead and counter pressure fill. But I'll wait 2 to 3 months until a beer I think is aged well, balanced, everything's dropped out, is clarified, properly carbonated, then I'll bottle it.
So it's a perfectly drinkable beer first. Okay.
But now, and so you don't add any extra carbonation for bottling?
No. I've never actually bumped it up, but if you're in a hurry, I would say bump it up maybe 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, like for 2 days of pressure. just to get an over-carbonation, because you are going to lose some in counter-pressure filling.
You do lose a little when you counter-pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have noticed that in my beers as they age for a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
They do pour a little bit flat. There's still carbonation, but they're not where, like if you pour a draft from Downtown Joe's,
sure,
you got head on it. You don't really have that.
So if you're gonna bottle to go to the picnic next Sunday, you don't have to worry about it. But if it's gonna sit around for a few months,
over-carbonated by 2 pounds.
Okay. Yeah. And you do that in the keg, you'll have turned it up a couple of pounds.
Right.
Okay. So what's the key here to a counter-pressure filler? You have the same clean...
Sterilizing.
Okay.
There's in counter-pressure filling, there's a 3-way valve involved. You have gas going through one side, you have beer going through the other, and you have an off, which is in the center. But you have no way of getting in there and cleaning, so you got to bake it. You got to 200 degrees, 300 degrees in the oven for 10 minutes.
The actual filler
Sterilize.
itself.
Now, there's a difference between sanitizing and sterilizing.
Yeah.
Now, when we sterilize, everything's dead.
Yeah.
You know, sanitizing, you sanitize the outer surface, but that doesn't mean you're actually killing everything.
And again, putting some water in there would help this process a lot.
Right.
When you bake it, you mean?
Because it'll boil.
Wet heat kills. Dry heat,
steam.
Dry heat keeps spores.
Okay.
Exactly. Steam, boiling water, use that as a sterilizer.
Okay.
So bake it, and then what I'll do after I bake it, I'll run powder brewery wash, a keg of it, you know, at a high pressure, 25, 30 pounds, so you get a lot of friction going through the lines.
Are you talking about PBW?
PBW in a keg. I'll pretend I'm counter pressure bottle filling an actual bottle with PBW.
Okay.
So that way it's now clean. And now afterwards, then I'll actually sanitize it with Star San. Now it's actually sanitized.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and start kegging back.
I'm assuming there was a rinse cycle in there.
I actually rinse with Star San.
Oh, you really do?
Yeah. And I don't do anything.
And you don't have any slippery feeling on the parts at all?
I do not. No.
Oh, good.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but I
mean, it should work because Star San's an acid and PBW is a base.
Right.
So it should actually work as a rinse, but
yeah,
I like to rinse things.
I worry about rinsing after Star San because there's no need to.
I mean after PBW. PBW is so slippery after you use it.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're doing one bottle at a time, it's no big deal, but I mean, I don't know.
I rinsed myself twice this week, which is odd. I usually only do it once.
Yeah.
But I'm good today.
You're smelling good from here.
So appreciate that.
Well done.
So now you have this. You've baked it. You've PBW'd it or some other sort of a powdered cleaner, and then you've Star Sanded it. You've sanitized it. Now you're ready to use it to actually fill your bottles.
Right.
Isn't there before you actually start putting liquid in, you purge your bottle? Is that right?
Yeah. There's a 3-way valve. You purge it with CO2 first.
Okay.
You know, and that's at whatever level of pressure you're at, which is, let's just say 12 pounds of pressure.
And that's just to get all the oxygen out.
Right. On the side of on the counter pressure filler is a relief valve, and that controls the actual fill rate.
Okay.
And then it releases pressure at a certain amount of pressure. I mean, like, if you're at 12 pounds, it's going to reach 12-pound pressure in that bottle. And you can actually either keep it in that bottle or let it escape through the relief valve.
Okay.
And you wait till that thing kind of vibrates and goes, you know, and then that is when you know it's actually ready to fill.
That's the pressure relief valve vibrating, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that,
which is different.
Yeah, it's not the bottle getting ready to explode on you. No.
Yeah. Nor is it your girlfriend having a good time in the other room.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing.
Wait for me, honey.
I'm almost done bottling. Yeah. So, okay. And here the key is, like, if we're doing natural carbonation, like Colin was saying, you know, the yeast is going to take care of the O2, but in this case, we need to manually get the O2 out of there, and that's the beauty of a counter pressure filler,
you got to
right?
purge with CO2.
And it's also, it's a closed system in this case, right? Because
it never sees air.
It never sees, you go from the keg to the bottom of the bottle.
Right.
It fills from the bottom up.
Right.
And it's all clean and nice, and you swear by this because in all the competitions that you've won with your bottled beer, you've counter pressured every single one.
Every single one. Yeah.
That's what you swear by it. Okay.
Well, now there's a dilemma though.
Okay.
I've been talking to Mike McDole, and he owns the counter pressure bottle filler. He owns the beer gun.
Which is just another form,
but it's not sealed. The beer gun is not sealed. You actually purge the bottle, but it's still open to the environment of air. But you're still filling up with CO2, so it's not letting oxygen in.
Yeah,
and then
you're reducing the oxygen.
You're reducing the oxygen level, but you're filling at a lower pressure. The thing with the beer gun, you got to overcarbonate almost 2 to 3 pounds because you're slow filling at about 3 to 4 pounds of pressure. Okay. But the thing about it, it's so easy to use.
Yeah.
It's just like what some professional breweries use. You know, you purge, fill. Instant. Yeah. It's really, really fast.
Yeah.
You know. But now Mike McDole's getting to an idea where he'll actually purge with CO2 with like a CO2 injector or a racking cane hooked up to a CO2 tank.
Okay.
And then he'll take his beer line assembly, 6 feet of line, he'll chill his bottle, and he'll fill it sideways. Just sideways. At 2 pounds of pressure.
That's actually really a lot like what we did with the bottles.
It is.
And he's winning with it. And so he's just doing the simple way that costs him $15, and all his beer's carbonated.
Sounds messy.
It is messy.
It sounds like you're spilling beer everywhere.
Messy or just laziness, or one of the three, too. I don't know. But
they're synonymous.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So fair enough. So that's a good way the two ways to bottle and to really keep it clean. The key here, I think, in both methods, I think we can take away from this is one way or another that oxygen has to not be there, and obviously they have to be clean. We all know everything has to be sanitized. But
and capping on foam is one way to get the oxygen out.
Okay.
Purging 3 times with CO2 is another method.
Okay. And you cap on foam when you do the counter pressure too. Is that also a method?
Ideally, yeah.
Ideally, right.
Still, in both methods, you still want the beer to foam out the top and throw a cap right down on top of that.
Absolutely.
And I used to wonder why I'd get a Sierra Nevada or some other craft beer, and I'd crack it open, and there was this gunk all around it. And I thought maybe it was rust, and I thought this, and I realized it's because they're capping on foam as well. It's beer. It's beer that's in there. It's dried up underneath the cap.
It might be that, or it might be wild yeast spoilage occurring.
Is that right?
Yeah, if you ever open a beer and it doesn't taste right and you see wild yeast at the top?
Yeah.
Or just yeast cluster?
Well, they always tasted right. If you crack open a lot of craft beers, you'll see what it looks like it's dried beer.
Oh, really?
Because it's capping on foam.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. If it tastes bad, then that's something else.
Right.
Obviously. It's two different things. Okay. Everybody wants us to turn up as if all this geek talk is really going places here at
the audience
at Downtown Joe's.
Do you see that line of girls out there?
Are they lined up? I'm not allowed to look. I have to stay focused over here. Do you want me to turn your microphone on, JP?
Sure. Does everyone else want you to turn my microphone? I can't hear because I'm trying to go to sleep and I need it louder so I can fall asleep.
So that you can sleep. That's fair enough. This is an interesting question that came through from the chat room, John, and I think that you're an example of how they don't do this, and I'm wondering how they would even know. The question is, when you enter a competition, do the judges dock you points for bottle conditioning?
Really, really small. It's like 2 or 3 points.
Oh, so they do actually take a couple. So if you write down on your sheet how you did it, you did bottle conditioning?
Well, they can tell by the yeast at the bottom. But I can't imagine docking somebody for bottle conditioning. That's chicken
shit. Or just
shit.
Carbonation level in general. I mean,
if you have the right carbonation level and you bottle condition, I think you should get a point.
If it comes through, and they're pouring yeast in the bottles, then it's either the steward or the judges being gloids. I mean, if you're bottle conditioning and you write that down and they mess up to the point where it's not stored properly and it's cloudy or whatever, then it's their fault. And if they dock you points,
that's the steward's job.
If they dock you points, then you contact the person who officiated or who judged, and you email them and you give them what for.
I'm picturing right now JP at home writing his letter to the contest. I lost because it's your fault. My beer was perfect, but you, sir...
Oh, I've done that. If you went on the More Beer forum after the last Nationals,
you're like, listen, that was the best beer in the world.
It was pretty good.
I've had 4 people want some more, and that means, in fact, one person wants me to start a brewery. So that means that my beer should have won everything.
I love
categories I didn't enter it in.
The most famous homebrew quote: "But all of my friends really like that beer. I don't know why it didn't win.
Not because it's free or anything.
Yeah, they really like that beer. Every one of my friends.
This is a flashing red warning sign if somebody tells me, all my friends really enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
My favorite is I live in a tiny rural area, or I live in Guam. It's the best beer around in 50 miles. Yeah, because the nearest town's 200 miles from you.
If you wouldn't say it about a girlfriend, then don't say it about a beer. So all my friends really enjoyed this.
That's a really good philosophy to follow. If you wouldn't say it about your lady, don't say it about your beer.
So I guess bitter is in every beer I drink.
Yeah. It ages really well. This beer has legs.
It's a little rough around the edges, but it'll do.
Alright.
Yeah. Keep it going, boys. Keep it going.
On.
Yeah.
Makes you feel like crap in the morning, but it's a lot of fun tonight.
We haven't had a Friday show in a while, John. Give me a break.
No, go.
See what you do, Colin.
Well, we woke up a couple people.
Make up one good quote, and JP and I ruined
Did
the whole
I
thing.
really drink that?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so now we've gotten our beer into the bottle. Does that about cover the bottling process, or is there anything we missed on your notes?
Storage?
There?
Right now we've got it in the bottle.
Let's do storage after we keg. Let's talk about kegging first, getting it into both our vessels. Then we'll talk about storing either one of them.
I have a bottling thing real quick. Colin, what do you think about oxygen barrier bottle caps? Because I've heard that the membrane that they put on there doesn't, to make it oxygen absorbing, doesn't properly allow for a seal to hold for a long period of time. So actually, if you put oxygen absorbing caps on your bottles to store for a long period of time, you're actually giving it sort of a weak seal.
You know, that's actually one I haven't heard, and I haven't done any research into it, so I can't really address it. I did contact that particular company a lot, and they do make 2 oxygen barrier caps. One that they normally sell to normal breweries, and one that they sell to people they think are incompetent, basically like us. Mm-hmm. And the idea was one had twice the amount of chemical. Here's what the engineer of the cap was able to tell me, and that is, as soon as you get it wet, it scavenges oxygen. So if you try to sanitize that, its oxygen barrier ability is gone. So if you think that bag you've got is sanitized enough for your beer, then you need to put it on top of the bottle and turn the bottle upside down, and that gets it wet, and that's the moment it scavenges the oxygen.
So it scavenges in a split second.
Basically, within a few minutes. So before you can get it on your bottle.
Colin, you're the scientist here. Explain to me, how does a chemical reaction occur in an oxygen-absorbing cap? What actually happens in that seal versus a normal overrun bottle cap?
They don't tell you what chemical they add to that. They add a chemical that wants to reduce. It wants to take oxygen.
Okay.
And that is the chemical definition of reduction.
Okay.
Is either give up a hydrogen or pull in an oxygen.
Interesting. Okay.
I am reductor. They don't tell you which chemical it is.
Yeah.
You might be able to look at their patent number and find out.
Oh, okay. I'll do that tomorrow. Cool.
I got nothing to do tomorrow, so I'm gonna go look up patent numbers.
Yeah, why not?
Listen to John. Listen, I had a long day planned of hanging out and watching TV tomorrow. I think I'll add to the list looking up patent numbers.
When I was at Beer, More Beer, I had to read more than 1,000 patents.
Did you really?
In order to reverse engineer products.
No wonder you quit. What a miserable job. I think, listen, guys, Colin, we need you to go ahead and look up patents all day and read them back to us.
At the time, I was paying $2 a piece, so it was a significant investment.
Is that right?
But, I mean, honestly, out of all the retards that work at Beer More Beer, who would more enjoy that than Colin?
None. Nobody.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
that was probably your best job. Don't lie.
I did create the position to do whatever.
You know, guys, I really, what do I like doing? I like pulling up pictures of Mars. I like talking about my motorcycle with my dog on the back, and I like looking at patents. How do I make this into a job?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Olin said, "We've got the job for you."
Yeah. Call me gullible, but.
Colin comes in the morning, and Olin says, "Listen, Colin, it's a lot of work, and it's pretty extensive. We're going to need you to go ahead and read patents all day." And Colin, unlike everybody else at B3, went, "Really?"
He had to sit down for a little bit.
That's awesome. Are you serious?
No, Olin's actually, here's how it really did happen. Olin came up to me and said, "Well, what do we have to do to patent this?" And I said, "Well, we need to do a patent search." And he said, "Well, what's a patent search involve?" And it says, "Well, you look up all the patents that have to do with this." And he says, "Well, what's it going to cost me for a patent search?" And I gave him a dollar figure. It can be anywhere from $800 to $3,000.
Wow.
And he said, "Well, how about if I pay you to look up all the patents?" I said, "I'm game."
See, you're really honest, because if Olin came up to me and said, "What does this involve?" I would have said, "Well, first I'm going to have to go to the Bunny Ranch." And then, of course, there's a lot of gambling involved. And several other things that have nothing to do with the job. We're going to have to take a quick break here, mostly because I got to use the,
And you got to drink, too.
The boys' room.
We're going to shove the beer.
All right, Captain.
What was that last beer we had, by the way?
We're drinking Sean Paxton's, the homebrew chef's homebrew. And he didn't even bring us his good stuff. He brought us his yeast starter to drink. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to give you my good stuff. This is my extras. I brought you my yeast starter.
Here's a slurry toast for you."
Yeah. Amazingly, his yeast starter, or maybe not so amazingly, his yeast starter's better than any beer I ever brewed. Except for the one that's in the carpet.
There you go.
I'm sure it was an amazing beer.
We gotta take a break.
Redefines carpet munching.
Real quick break. When we come back, we're going to move on to kegging, and then we'll talk about how to age your beer and the best ways to do it. You're listening to the Brewing Network live from Downtown Joe's. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
Trying to wrap things up here at Downtown Joe's. We've got one last segment for you folks, and we're going to cover kegging and then how to condition your beer. All in one segment. I got a few questions in front of me. Before we get to it, I do want to give an honorable mention because I just made fun of Paxton's beer, and then he gave me his Roquefort clone that you guys all have in front of you here. John, did you try that too?
I didn't.
This one? It's really awesome. It's really an amazing beer. Have you tried it yet? It's
Rochefort?
Sure. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now I understand.
Yeah, now we get it. I had to hear it from JP to understand which one it was.
Don't hit on
translator.
JP.
But it's really for one, it's a really close clone, and two, it's just awesome homebrew. It's complex. It's got a lot of it's got a lot of stuff going on in there. I don't even know where to begin.
For the after party.
It's good beer.
Sean, what did you age this in?
Crazy Jack is molesting John's girlfriend.
You molest men and women, then.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Sorry, I just interrupted. What did he say about aging?
He said it was aged in glass. I was wondering if it had been aged in an oak.
Oh, right. Did you do something to it to get oak flavor, or did it just...
Maybe it was an oak glass.
There's no oak in there, Colin. You're dumb.
No, actually, what I do pick up, though, is a little oxygen, and that's why I was wondering if...
Oh, is that right?
It's a year-old, yeah.
It's a 1 year old? Okay. It's a great beer. Is it a secret recipe? Can you put that up on the forum for us? This recipe? You'll only give it to me? Is that what you said? I don't got to give you...
You have to grab your ankles.
I don't have to touch you with my hand or anything, do I?
Only with a sock over it.
It looks like it's 12 o'clock again.
I guess I'm driving. I can't participate this time. Someone's going to have to do my 12.
12 o'clock to me looks like a DUI late in about an hour.
Yeah. 12 o'clock is... 12 is how many times I'm going to have to go to court between now and...
Colin, what is this 12 o'clock deal about? Because it's 7:34 right now.
No, but...
Well, it's 12 o'clock somewhere. The sun's above the ground, right about in the middle of the sky, somewhere on the earth.
It's 7:30, but it's 12 somewhere.
Yeah. Don't you... She still doesn't get it.
Well, 12 o'clock, noon is really when the sun is at the middle of the sky.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering...
The highest point.
Yeah.
And there's always a place on Earth that's where the sun is.
Somewhere the sun is high enough that it's noon.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
It's a terrible thing, but we have to drink at noon.
It's good noon is what it is.
Colin, I told somebody this story this week about you kind of as a boss and things like that and what we do here at Downtown Joe's. And everybody I told was like, shit, give me an application to go work at Downtown Joe's.
Kenny does the hiring. He's standing right in front of the stage now.
And he's about to join in. Okay, so it's the official Downtown Joe's noon toast, because it's noon somewhere.
Good noon.
Good noon, everybody.
Thank you.
And they have to all cheer each other as
JP.
normal and
Daniela.
Glass.
Let's do the German toasting, John.
Justin.
JP. German
Colin.
toasting, you have to not only look in the eye, but call out the name of the person you're looking at.
Say my name.
Hi, JP.
So they're all going to have a drink. And as they're doing that, I'm getting some questions prepped in front of me that have come through from the chat room. You too can still join us in the chat. We've got about, I like to say 40 minutes, which will probably turn into an hour and a half.
How does Chad feel about being joined inside?
And that's in the chat room there.
Sorry.
And then we're going to finish up kegging and then how to go ahead and age your beer. Before we move on to kegging, a good question that came through the chat room when we were talking about purging our bottles with CO2. Somebody says, does the CO2 really stay in the bottle? Wouldn't it just come right out? And this is a good question until you realize that CO2 is heaviest, right? It's heavier than O2? Is that why it stays in the bottle?
Well, no, we actually hope that the seal isn't permeable to CO2.
Not once it's sealed, but when you just purge. So you purge with CO2, right? Doesn't it sit inside the bottle?
Well, that's the big myth, but no, it doesn't.
I see. It doesn't.
All you're doing is diluting the oxygen.
Okay.
You're not actually removing it.
So it will go ahead, the CO2 will come out.
It'll dilute it.
But it does, okay, so it does dilute it.
You're really just diluting the oxygen.
See, I thought it was heavier because you could, you can see it.
Well, it turns out if you start doing the math on that whole little problem, that it isn't enough heavier to make a big difference.
Okay.
And if you really want heavier, you need argon or a heavier gas like that.
Isn't argon the hero in Lord of the Rings?
Extra A.
I thought that was the same guy.
But unlike Lord of the Rings, argon isn't gay.
Yes. I thought they were the same.
Okay,
person.
so here's a side note, a great drinking game to play.
Oh,
every
I'm
time
listening.
they say the ring, you have to drink.
Oh, in the movie?
In the movie. You have to watch the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
And every time they say the ring, you have to drink.
So for 9 hours, every time they say the ring, you have to drink.
I'd rather chug and then vomit and pass out. My favorite...
I'm in. I'm ready.
You get bored with that, every time Aragon has a line, you say, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
My favorite visual drinking game is 24, when every time Jack says, damn it, that's a good drinking game.
You are such
Damn it! This is a bad lead! And then you chug.
You are as feminine a male as I've ever met in my life.
You know, I could do wonders for your curly hair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Whoa!
I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Whoa!
You guys are starting to make Daniela hot
No.
here.
No matter what they do, it's not going to happen.
Did you have to look deep into my eyes when you said that?
Yes, I did.
All right. Okay, so other questions I have, here's a kind of a random question and might lead us into kegging too. This person says that last night he tried to force carbonate his beer, pump the PSI up to 30 degrees.
30 degrees of PSI, huh?
Good man.
30 degrees of PSI.
But then he put it outside for 6 hours where it was 10 degrees outside, and he thinks that he got some ice action going on, that it actually kind of slushied in there.
Yeah.
So now he wants to know if it's going to affect his beer, and if so, how.
Sure.
Well, if you take the ice out, you're
Icebox.
Yeah, you're gonna have this nice little concentrated beer.
What if he lets it melt back into solution and he leaves that beer alone? Will it actually affect the flavor?
I don't think so, no.
Really? Because it's still the same thing, isn't it? It just got cold.
Yeah, and the carbon dioxide will move into the water that was frozen when he was carbonating.
Plus, I know you've all put a beer in the freezer to get it cold real fast, and you forgot about it, and it froze, and then you took it out, and you put it back in the fridge, and you drank it, and it was fine.
Was it?
It was fine. As long as the top didn't burst, that is, which I've done several times.
That's been my experience too, but I have people that have argued this point with me.
Oh, really? That it tasted different?
Yeah.
Mine was always fine. I was happy with it.
Some people think George Bush is responsible for global warming, but they're wrong too.
So back to frozen beer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what we want to do. We want to transition over to now kegging our beer, because we've talked about how to bottle it properly.
I got a question which sort of is related to all of this from the audience, and that is, how do you know if you've exposed your beer to oxygen? You know, when my judge opens that beer, or when I open that beer, how am I supposed to tell?
A great question. And what is the telltale sign?
Well, there's two. The first is the wet paper bag, and everybody describes it as drinking a beer out of a wet paper bag on a cold morning in the parking lot of 7-Eleven.
Which we've all done. Let's face
Waiting in line for that welfare check.
And that's what, how people, what is that chemical, JP? We tasted it together. Transneol 9? Was that the one?
I think it was Zetolhol 12, but I could be off on my Zetolhols.
You and I did that flavor training together.
That's right, actually. I forget.
Yeah. Okay.
I forget what chemical it is now.
Okay. In any case, the other one, and is the one that I found in Sean's excellent beer here, is sherry, which can be a desired quality,
like in
a beer like this, right? Or it can be a detriment if it's a lighter beer like a Budweiser or whatever.
Okay.
And those are the two flavors that I look for when I'm trying to decide if I oxygenated beer.
Okay, so they can cause. Well, see, that's interesting. I've gotten that sort of cardboardy paper bag flavor a lot, but I don't know if I would have picked out the sherry right away, and I certainly wouldn't have attributed it to oxygen. I would have thought, oh, what did they put in this beer to give me that sherry flavor?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, oxygen is the cause of it, and usually it's really slow additions of oxygen.
Okay,
I think the sherry part is harder to pick up for a lot of people too, because you can probably mistake it for malty notes, I think, too.
The first beer I ever brewed was extremely sherry contaminated. So that makes me really ultra sensitive to it.
Does anybody else wish that I had Oh Sherry by Journey to play as we were in the background as we were having this conversation?
Oh, I'll sing it for you.
Yeah, because I'm feeling like I've missed a good opportunity here to play Oh Sherry. Because there's not a lot of opportunities you get to play Oh Sherry.
Let's do it. And we've all missed it
where it's
for
appropriate.
The last 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so why don't we talk about kegging beer now? A lot of us also keg beer, and we need to not only prepare the keg, but then properly put the beer into the keg. So let's talk about preparing the keg first, just like we did the bottles. You said that there's a method of this crazy baking nonsense that you talk about.
Yeah, actually, and it's one of my favorite ways to prepare kegs. I use kegs to introduce finings.
Okay.
And so that's really important to me. So when I'm sanitizing the keg, if I want to make sure it's sanitized, I fill the thing with 200-degree water and pump it out through the fittings.
That doesn't mean you're cleaning the poppet,
You know what?
though.
It means I'm sanitizing it. That's assuming I have a clean keg. This is just a sanitizing process.
But if it's a keg you reuse a lot, you got to take it apart though.
Yeah, you have to take it apart every time.
You got the poppet, the nipple part.
Yeah, you have to take it apart every time.
See, I got all excited because I thought you didn't have to, because I did the same thing that you do, Colin, and I never take my kegs apart because, that's an extra step.
Well, you can do that with a Sankey keg. You can't do that with a Cornelius keg.
See, and all I have is corny kegs, and here's what I do. I run PBW through the whole system. That works. And then I run Star Sand through the whole system, but I never take them apart. I never take the two tops apart. And you guys are saying I need to be taking those things apart.
That's okay, but you have to have a high pressure PBW going through everything.
Okay.
You got to be. Mike McDowell invented this. You have a submersible pump, and you hook it up to all these both fittings, the gas, and you just keep recycling the PBW for a half hour. But you're creating friction, which goes in through that poppet, and everything's cleaned out from that.
Yeah.
And has he actually disassembled the poppets to verify they're clean?
No. And he has contamination issues.
Well, then,
you don't know,
then
though.
It's anecdotal evidence. Yeah,
it is.
What we really need to do, if we wanted to do that, is take one of the poppets, drop it in some wort, and force test it.
Just let it ferment.
If we could force test it, then it would.
That's a great way. Make like a starter, and you want to test if your ball valve's clean. Make a little starter and put your ball valve in there. That's good.
Don't make a starter.
Don't
just make a wort.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
make
don't
a starter
put
for the
yeast.
wort, but don't put any
Yeah.
yeast. Right. But that's
anything you want to test.
You're a smart man.
Yeah, anything you want to test.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell Mike McDowell you called him anecdotal. I don't think he's going to be too happy about
Simply
that.
as evidence.
Yeah.
Mike McDowell makes some of the best beers I've ever had.
He does.
So
And Mike
really
Dole.
does.
John told me once that he just doesn't even sanitize his keg. You just throw shit in him. He doesn't care.
I didn't say that.
He did. He said, guys, I went to Mike McDowell's and he didn't do anything. He just threw a bunch of beer in there and he served it.
He carries his wort down after he boils with open 5-gallon buckets.
Does he?
Down the stairs, and he just pours it right on top of his slurry in his conical.
No kidding.
Exposes the air for like 15 seconds at least.
It's good beer.
But you know
Okay,
what?
so
that's probably his house flavor. That's probably where he gets his house flavor. That bubblegum flavor.
Let's talk about our protection, though,
Booyah.
that we've got. We can actually do that to a limited extent. And you don't want to preach it to homebrewers, because every homebrewer, can make a mistake. But we've got a lot of protections. We're pitching a hugely healthy yeast slurry. We're pitching millions of cells.
So they're going to suppress the wild shit.
They're going to outcompete the wild stuff. So, you don't have to be as completely meticulous as everybody wants you to be. But you need to strive. You need to keep heading towards that direction.
Right.
Because at some point, what you can possibly achieve and what you need to do match. And then you're making good beer. And
well, it's just reinforcing the proper way to do things. Like you might not need. I can't think of a good analogy, but I agree with you. It's reinforcing thing, and it's not that it will happen. It's a possibility, no matter how minute.
Yeah.
It's still a possibility. So
Right.
like people who there's Jamil knows a guy who, when he cools his wort, he pitches and ferments in his boil kettle. You don't want to do that, but then he goes, well, he makes some good beer. Yeah, but at the same time,
you can also introduce some problems.
Exactly.
And really what I'd worry about in that regard is lactic acid bacteria being able to eat the trub. Now, that's what I'd personally worry about. And when that guy told me that was his process, that's what I'd be tasting for. I might not find it in 110 or 100 batches, but I bet you in 1,000 batches I'll find it.
All right, here's the deal, guys, because we're actually on a timer now. We have 38 minutes to finish this discussion before my computer dies. And I can plug it in, but then it sounds all staticky to the users at home.
See, this is like an episode of 24. You got 38 minutes to find the bomb.
Yes. Thank you. We have 38 minutes to find JP's vagina.
Found.
Yeah. Done. Show's over. All right. So here we go.
Hi, how you doing?
Let's move on to kegging and properly preparing these kegs.
How is Rosie
to
anyway?
put beer into them. My fault. It's a family restaurant, and I take it back, which makes it okay. You can say anything you want as long as you take it back, by the way. So we got to take our beer and we got to put it in these kegs. So we need to clean them.
Okay, and just like the bottle, we need to clean it.
Yeah.
And as you know, you guys have reminded me, with a Cornelius keg, you need to disassemble it in order to get it properly clean.
Okay.
There is no way to see all of the pieces without disassembling a Cornelius keg.
Okay.
If you have a Sankey keg, they're actually designed to be cleaned.
Through
CIP,
running
upside down. Yeah, it's clean in place.
Okay. See, that's good to know, actually. And I have a couple of Sankey kegs, but how the heck do you fill a Sankey keg as a homebrewer? Is it the same way as
yeah, that's actually really
system?
easy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring you back in the aging cellar. We can fill
Show
a keg tonight.
Let's go right now. Yeah, all right. We'll see you later, everybody. We're going to go. We're going to the aging cellar.
It's actually really easy.
Okay.
You make a keg filler that basically has beer going in the down tube, the product side,
and air going out.
And air coming off the other side with a bleed screw.
Okay.
So you can adjust how fast it fills.
Okay.
Because if you fill it too fast, it foams.
Okay. Now, whether we're using a Sankey or a Cornelius, assuming we've got everything clean like we're supposed to, is the best way to do it to be in a closed system, whether it's one or the other? I mean, because I don't... Here, and let me tell you why
I don't think you...
I just open the top and put a tube in, and I cover it with saran wrap, right, so stuff doesn't fall in, but it's not a closed system.
I don't have an issue with that.
Really?
I really don't. If I was transferring out a glass, that's how I'd do it.
You would do okay.
Before I would risk pressurizing a glass vessel, which would be the other way to do it.
Oh, and that's how you'd have to do it
in order to push CO2 into the glass vessel.
Right. Okay.
Before I took that risk, I'd just rack it off.
Okay.
I think racking's just fine. I've had a huge amount of success with it as a home brewer.
Yeah.
And I've tasted, literally hundreds of brews that have been racked by hand.
Okay.
And you know what? What you leave is more important than the problems you cause.
Okay, so this is not what we're worried about. But we do want to do things like covering the space with a saran wrap or foil or something. Like
if it makes you happier, yeah.
Really?
That's closer to the goal.
Because you could just leave that thing wide open with a hose going in there and fill it that way?
You can.
Really? And you'd be comfortable with that as a brewer?
Depending on where I was.
Okay.
Okay, so if I was in the middle of a grape field, no, I wouldn't be comfortable.
But your kitchen's pretty bad too.
Yeah, in my kitchen, I don't think I'd be comfortable.
Okay. Yeah, mine either, by the way.
In my aging cellar, I'm comfortable as long as I've got the refrigeration turned off.
So there's no air moving around like that? Okay.
Yeah. And, I don't have to do it often, but I would.
Okay. Any other tips then? Because if we don't have to do a closed system, as long as we're nice and clean, it's a pretty straightforward process. Just get it in there.
Well, okay, so here's some really important things to think about. Are you going to start dry hopping? Then you want to shorten your dip tube because, your dip tube's too long.
I've been told that.
Yeah.
By midgets.
Yeah. By a really small person.
Yeah. Daniela's really laughing.
Yeah. It was
liars.
She just has a big keg. What do you think of that? Maybe your keg's too big.
Maybe your keg is too large.
You know what? You're a tall person, so that should be in perspective too, shouldn't it?
I'm going to stick with JP, and listen, maybe my dip tube's just fine.
Well, maybe you should get married to JP then.
Just fine.
We'll have to move to Hawaii, JP.
It's true. Aloha oi.
Please continue before all the listeners just turn off, Colin.
They already turned off.
Yeah.
So I really am a big, strong promoter, actually, of shortening your dip tube.
Okay.
It allows you to leave sediment at the bottom. You're going to lose that last pint of beer.
Do you then serve out of that tank? Or
sure, why not?
You would? Okay.
Why not? You can leave hops at the bottom. You can leave all sorts of things. All you need is 1 inch of space.
Okay. So just shorten it by an inch.
Yeah, shorten it by an inch.
Okay. All right, good to know. And you could probably, so you should have a few different kegs at home. I mean, you should have your dry hopping keg and your normal serving keg, because your normal serving keg might not have the inch cut off the bottom.
And so what do you gain out of that keg? 1 pint.
Colin,
come down here. Tell me I shortened my dip tube on your recommendation. You owe me a pint, and I'll buy you a pint.
Yeah. All right, then I'm in because I'm telling you that pint to me is important. I mean, when it's 2 a.m. and I need one more, I'm telling you, man. If I run out, I'm going to be pissed, Colin. In fact, I'm calling you at 2 a.m.
I leave my cell phone by the bed. Actually,
he'll probably be up at that point.
Yeah, that's making like a hologram of some sort.
Yeah. Here's a hologram of me making a hologram.
Yes. Here's a hologram of a beer.
There's a very famous hologram of that, actually. A lab assistant making a hologram.
Oh, Jesus. What is
it's
wrong
actually
with
really
this
famous. You can go out and buy it.
Oh, good. That's the next thing I'll do.
Yeah. While John's looking up patents tomorrow, you can look for the hologram of a hologram.
Yeah. Go to Intergraph.com.
All right, so that's one good tip for dry hopping beers. You're going to go ahead and cut off an inch from your dip tube.
Well, you know what? Even if you're just settling yeast out or settling anything else out, Pepsi needed to go all the way to the bottom because it saved them billions of gallons a year.
Yeah.
As a home brewer, we don't need to go all the way to the bottom.
So
those things that we're leaving at the bottom are just fine.
It's like having a bris for your keg.
That's right.
Yes.
Circumcise all your kegs. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
Basically what we're talking about.
Pepsi likes to bottom out.
L'Chaim.
Other guys don't.
All right, trying to think of a couple of questions that came through and where they fit in. Someone's in upstate New York where it's very cold right now. They're getting 8 feet of snow at this very moment.
Nice.
All at once?
Can I bring my snowboard?
Kegged for the first time and started carbonating at room temperature for 3 days at 15 psi.
Didn't do anything.
Why?
Because it's too warm? Is that what you're saying? He says he crashed it. He then crashed it in an ice bath today, which was, probably his back patio.
Yeah.
He says the carbonation's too
low.
Yeah.
That's why, because
carbonating warm doesn't really do you anything.
Yep. The colder it is, the more the CO2 will be absorbed by the burr.
All right,
okay, so there's a chart that every brewer's got to study when they're learning to brew.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a home brewer or a professional brewer. You got to look at this chart once in your career. And basically what it does is it correlates what pressure and what temperature it's at to what carbonation level you are. And this chart will give you the idea. And basically at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I'd expect to have to be somewhere at 45 psi, just as a rough guess out of the top of my head.
Okay.
Which nobody wants to take a homebrew keg to. If you're really in a hurry, the best way to carbonate a Cornelius keg is to leave a couple of pints of headspace in it, and to put it on about 20-25 psi at 30 degrees or 32 degrees or however cold you can get it, and rock it on your knee back and forth in a swaying motion, just like the Titanic sinking.
Mm-hmm.
You do that for about 2 minutes, and your beer's fully carbonated.
Okay.
I mean, literally, you can carbonate a keg in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
By rocking it on your knee.
I do that when I'm not, putting it to 30 pounds for 2 days. That's what I do. I never wait the 7 days that it takes at 12 pounds.
Well, that's why your beer doesn't taste good.
So I never do either.
There's a lot of other reasons that my beer doesn't
until
taste
like a month. That's why Doc always says, don't serve it, just leave it alone. Don't touch it, because it's aging.
That's ridiculous.
Well,
but
it is.
It's
true. It's true. Aging is good.
Yeah. But you can carbonate real quick by shaking it on your leg.
I'll buy you a bottle of Well vodka, and you can drink that while you're waiting.
No, it's not the same. I still enjoy the beer, even if it's not as good as it can be. I don't drink liquor.
That's fine.
I drink bad beer. I don't drink liquor. There's a difference. Okay, couple of questions that came through. People want to know a method of filling a keg here. Guy wants to know, how about purging the keg 3 times? I don't know why 3. But
3 is the magic number, actually, about this, and I'll talk about that.
It's the Holy Trilogy.
Yeah. Yes.
Trinity, even. Purging it 3 times before filling the keg through the out socket, and never opening the keg. So I guess he's assuming so it goes down the dip tube and doesn't
and he's
splash.
Absolutely right. This is a great way to fill a keg.
Okay.
So you never want to fill through the end because it drops. And it falls in.
Okay.
You want to fill through the bottom so it doesn't splash.
So it fills from the bottom up.
So you want to fill from the bottom.
Okay.
So purging 3 times is a age-old brewer's recipe. And how we came up with this recipe is the first time you fill a tank or a keg and you vent it, you've reduced the oxygen by a certain amount.
Okay.
Then you fill it again and you vent it.
Oh, I see.
It's like 23% or something,
again.
right?
I see.
And then you fill it again, and the third time they decide there's not enough oxygen to be left.
Okay.
However, people like Jamil, and what I would recommend to every home brewer, is to fill this keg with water first, or sanitizer, which is what I used to use. I fill it with Star San. Purge it with CO2.
Yeah.
At that point, 100% of the oxygen is gone. Because when you purged it with water, you purged all that oxygen.
Sure.
You don't have to use up all that CO2. I can't do that here because I can't fill a 218-gallon tank
it's a
with
lot
water.
It's a waste.
And, well, it's a waste of CO2 too.
Yeah.
And so it's expensive here. So I do the triple purge method here.
Okay.
But as a home brewer, fill it with water, push it out with CO2.
Okay. Our stage is falling apart on top of JP's head, by the way.
It's true. It's not the first time.
Well,
okay, here's another question.
Duct tape sticks to his head. Really
First of all, I want to quell the rush of people that are coming up to try to help the situation. But that's
including our tech.
Yeah. But that's what I do is I'll have my keg like 2.5 gallons. You know, I'll turn it upside down and back and forth because Star Sand is foamy and it's sanitizing, whatever. And then I'll charge it and then I'll drain it into my next keg and I'll leave that one empty. You know what I mean? And so that's exactly what I do, and it works really well.
Actually, I had to sanitize a whole series of kegs. In fact, I think I was doing a 3.5 barrel brew into 5-gallon kegs.
Okay.
And what I literally did was I filled one corny with 5 gallons of sanitizer, and I daisy changed every tank together and vented the last one, which had to take the sanitizer through every single one.
Yeah.
Before it vented. And I was able to sanitize all the kegs with just 5 gallons of sanitizer.
Very nice. And very conservative, which I like.
Yeah, right.
On the resources.
Yeah, it's expensive with CO2, but it was cheap with SARS.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on a bit to conditioning, because I have a question coming through here. Does beer in a keg condition? This is a good question. I've wondered this myself. Whether it's carbonated or not. And the reason they're asking, this person says sometimes they'll keg their beer and then just lager it, for a few weeks, a month, whatever, before they ever actually carbonate that beer. So you see what I mean? Do we need to carbonate it instantly, or can we wait and it doesn't make a difference?
Okay, so this is a big issue I've been debating with another brewer.
Okay.
So it's a really important
Who's the other
question.
brewer? Do you want to tell us?
Yeah, it's Brian at Moonlight Brewing.
Okay.
And it's a really big question. He really believes that you get 21 days of aging in, and then you carbonate it.
So you don't carbonate to begin. Okay.
And his argument is that the more carbonation you have in there, the more energy you've stored in the keg, the more Brownian motion you have in the molecules. That's all the molecules bouncing into each other. So that's slowing down your conditioning process. Because what you really want during conditioning is everything to be stuck together, still, and fall to the bottom.
Okay.
And any Brownian motion is slowing that process down.
Yeah.
Now, I've done A and B studies where I've carbonated right after transfer out of the fermenter and waiting until I served 21 days later. I can't tell the difference.
Okay.
Now, does that mean there's no difference? No. The theory all supports Brian's standpoint. In practice, I haven't noticed a difference, and I tend to leave everything carbonated just in case I'm a space cadet and I run out of something.
And you then serve it.
And then I've got something ready, carbonated, ready to go.
Yeah.
So I like to have it ready to go before it ages.
Okay. Yeah, see, I have always wondered that, of whether or not you have to carbonate it right away.
The theory says it should be better to carbonate the last possible moment.
Okay.
I always carbonate as soon as possible, because if I put some headspace on it, some head pressure, and then I leave it alone, the beer absorbs it. Then I think that maybe there's a leak, because then I'll go and it's accepting a bunch of CO2, and then I always panic. So I just carbonate right away.
You know how you know if there's a leak? You get this really huge black spot in your carpet.
Yeah. Is that true?
It's like 6 foot
and your
by
girlfriend's
6
screaming
foot.
at you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big. You can tell.
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about it. You can tell.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'll have to buy carpet now.
Just let you know.
Yeah.
You'll know, man.
Thank you.
Wading through it, everything else.
Okay, so and one of the things that this CO2 chart tells us, if we have a tank that's aged and it's been sitting there in equilibrium for a 5-gallon keg a week.
Okay.
For one of my tanks, maybe a month. If I just measure the head pressure, I can tell you, and know the temperature of the tank, I can tell you exactly what the CO2 volume is in solution. So if I was trying to carbonate this beer to 2 volumes of CO2 or 2.2 volumes of CO2, I can tell you exactly by what the head pressure is a month later.
Okay. All right. So fair enough. Lastly, let's make sure that we cover all of the conditioning things, and you have about 12 minutes to wrap all this up. So not only how we carbonate these things, someone wants to know real quick before we cover the basics of conditioning, will beer last longer if you have keg lines with balanced lines versus having to vent every time? And I don't understand that question. If there's some sort of line that vents itself.
Last longer?
So they want to know. Keg lines balanced versus having to vent every time.
I think they mean like some people carbonate at 30 psi, and and then they drop it down to like 10. And for some people, it makes it foamy, so maybe that's what it is. Or if they have an unbalanced line where they have too big of a line, like a 1/4-inch line, and only like 5 feet of it, then it's going to be really foamy coming out of the keg. So then they vent the keg to reduce the head pressure and the CO2, and so then it comes out a little flatter.
That only works if you're serving within about 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. You can take all the pressure off the top of a keg.
Well, I think that's what they're talking about.
But you pretty much have about 6 hours. The question's cryptic to me. I'm not quite sure what he's asking.
Okay.
I really do think he was trying to ask an important question. I just don't understand it.
And I just want to say, if it's cryptic to Colin, you fucked up.
So I think whoever asked that should email Colin at I'm from space.
No, that would be
.org.
No, really, that would be Colin at downtownjoes.com, and you really can email me.
Yeah. All right. The other one, of course, is Colin at IinventedSpace.com.
Hey, I invented the internet.
You did?
I'm just trying to say that.
See, because I thought I invented the internet.
See, I invented invention. So, what do you think of that?
All right. Why don't we go ahead and cover the basics now? We've got our beer into kegs. We've got it into bottles. How are we going to keep it properly? I think that it depends on the beer. Some people say you want to keep it cold. And other beers you want to keep in the closet, but dark and kind of 68 degrees, like JP.
Dark and in the closet.
What are the keys here? Give us a rundown on the basics of keeping our beer for as long as possible.
Okay, so you read the literature on how long does beer last. And one of the things you find out right away is that they don't have enough time to wait. They don't want to wait 3 months or 6 months or 9 months to see if their beer goes bad.
Meaning commercial brewers?
Yeah, commercial brewers. So what they actually do is they try to speed up the aging process. And it turns out you can. All you have to do is keep your beer warm. So what that tells me as a craft brewer, what I need to do to slow down the aging process is to keep my beer cold. So as soon as I can, as soon as everything's completed, I know my fermentation's done, I know my diacetyls have been reduced, I get my beer down to 40 degrees, I hold it at 40 degrees until it's in my customer's hand.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to age.
Okay.
You know, when I'm bottle conditioning, leave it warm for a week or 2 weeks. As soon as you open up a bottle and it's carbonated, get all those bottles cold and leave them cold for the rest of the time.
Okay. But the key definitely is to make sure they're carbonated before you get those bottles cold.
That's right. If you get them cold before you carbonate them, they won't carbonate.
Okay. And if you've waited a couple of weeks and you have no carbonation, maybe you're keeping your bottles too cold to begin with. Put them in a warmer spot.
Actually, so this happened to me once. So this exact problem happened to me. I opened up a bottle and it wasn't carbonated. And I'm trying to think, what in the world did I do? And I opened the next bottle and it was a gusher.
Oh, interesting.
And what I'd done is I'd racked out of my carboy into my bottling bucket and forgot to put my priming sugar into the bottling bucket first.
Nice.
So I put my priming sugar into the bottling bucket second and tried to gently stir it with a spoon.
And it didn't work
And
out.
every bottle had a random carbonation level. It either gushed all over you or it was flat.
So getting that corn sugar distributed equally is
And the best
key.
way to do that is to put it into your bottling bucket before you bottle.
Okay.
Sounds like a bad prom date. Sorry.
I wish I had crickets.
I thought it was pretty funny.
I wish I had Sherry, and I wish I had crickets on my soundboard.
Crickets might be good right now.
All right, let's wrap things up. And I have some questions for you about Downtown Joe's actually that came through.
For me? Yeah, go ahead. I'll answer them as much as I can.
People want to know, Colin, if you've ever thought about brewing Belgians.
You know, I love brewing Belgians, and Sean Paxton and I are working on a saison recipe, and you're going to find that on tap May or June.
Ah, cool.
And I'm really excited about that. One of the big scary issues for microbrewers is having cross contamination with different yeasts. So I normally only keep one yeast in the building, and it's very rare that I bring in a guest yeast.
Okay.
And this situation will be that I bring in a guest yeast. That being said, I'll pay extra careful attention to that fermenter when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Literally disassemble it and clean it all very carefully.
I think also with Sean Paxton's part of the recipe, you should be careful about any ingredients that he doesn't list specifically. You know what I'm saying? Like if he says
secret sauce,
like add a little of this, wink, wink. Don't pay attention to that line. You know, you got to watch out for that. Are you planning to offer any lagers? in the future? People want to know if you
we have done some lagers, and they've all been out of pitches that I've grown out of a starter. And I love Pilsners, and I would love to have a Pilsner on tap permanently. So it is something I'm working on, and my equipment isn't really designed to do lagers. It was really designed to do ales. So it's a bit of a challenge, and I keep struggling with it. I don't think I can't say that I've produced a bad lager, but I can't say that I've produced a lager that I'm really happy with either.
Okay.
And so I keep working on it. We're going to install a water deionizer so that I can remove some more of the minerals from the water. Mm-hmm. That's going to get me closer to Pilsen water. And then, I'm not going to decoct, so I'm going to be exploring some uses of lactic acid. And maybe we'll get a good Pilsner. If it's not perfect, I don't want to release it. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, and that's fair enough.
Well, you should talk Sean O'Sullivan into doing the same thing.
Yeah. Ooh.
His watermelon wheat is perfect.
What was that?
I don't know.
I think that's a decoct fight waiting to happen. Right there.
Actually, South Park Blonde is great.
And then people want to know about aging your beer here. How often do you turn over your beer? Or maybe what's the longest beer sticks around for you?
The longest I've been able to age a beer is I had a tank that was entirely too hoppy. And it was a special. It was a Dixie SB. And we served about half the tank, and everybody's comment was, literally everybody's comment, it doesn't matter how big of a hophead you are, this is too hoppy.
Really?
And so I took it off tap, and I aged it for 6 months. And put it back on, and everybody loved it. It was the best Dixie SB they'd ever had.
Oh, that's nice.
Not even knowing it was the same batch.
Sure, and that's great. And they're like, wow, you did much better with it this time.
Right.
What a great new beer.
Right, and simply all I did was age out some of the hops.
Okay.
So, how long could I age a beer here? I wouldn't have any problems with the processes I use now, aging a beer for a year. I have 18 aging tanks. I brew 100 days a year, so that really means I have to turn over every tank about 5 times a year. So that is the limit. Okay. Can I take one tank and tie it up? Yeah, I can if I have to.
Yeah.
I prefer to keep everything fresh. I like to not have anything be more than 90 days old.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, that's pretty young.
Yeah, that's my goal. I figure it's ready after 21 to 30 days, and I don't want it more than 90 days old.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had a beer that's 90 days old, and I don't think I have.
Certainly you have.
Barley wines?
I've never
Belgian
made
beers?
Never made one.
No, you never made a beer that's 90 days old. Okay.
Never had one. I'm sorry. I'm sure I've tasted a beer that's more. I've never made myself and kept one of my beers for longer than 90 days.
Because you carbonated at 30 PSI and you're drinking it 2 days later. That's why.
Yeah, no, everybody knows that. And I'm saying that I've never had a beer more than 90 days.
I was trying to help you. I apologize.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniela. Just smacking JP on the back of the head.
I think I just wet myself.
The truth is, Daniela won't let me keep beer longer than she's like. We got to drink it. It's time.
That's me, yeah.
Well, she grew up in the right country to learn how to drink beer, though.
Austria.
That's true.
All right, listen. We're going to wrap things up. We are here next Sunday, once again, with Colin. It's our last show here. I'm sure there'll be some in the future, but our run of Downtown Joe's shows is coming to an end. If you're in the area, come on out and have some fun with us next Sunday. It's going to be a good time. And we're going to be talking about specialty malts and adjuncts, and maybe even carpet aging your beer, according to John Foster, who's hanging out with us today.
Carpet aging, that's good.
There's a Jamil show tomorrow morning.
Yeah, tomorrow morning we're doing a Jamil show. If you listen early enough, it's actually a double Jamil show. We'll be doing 2 episodes, but that's kind of a secret. So
do you know what about?
I know the one that you'll definitely hear if you tune in at the regular time is Roggen beer, which is a German rye beer, as a matter of fact.
Is it German for rug beer?
I think it's just for me. They're going to be covering.
Hey, look at that!
Yeah, how
first funny joke.
How is it you say rug beer, rug burn rather in German?
I don't know.
You don't have rug burn? You never said rug burn?
Is how you say it.
Yeah.
Justin, what's wrong with you, man?
What the hell? So tune in next week. We're going to be hanging out, having a good time back here at Downtown Joe's, and come on out and have some fun with us if you're in the area. I want to say thanks to Colin for having us out. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. The beer's been good, and it's been fun, too. Jamil's on with us next Sunday as well as, like Daniela said, tomorrow morning. So tune in at 10 a.m.
Do we get Doc?
We're going to get Doc for a short time. It's Doc's anniversary, And he's gonna. Here's the funny thing. He does bring his wife to Napa for their anniversary, and they go home on Sunday. And he's gonna do the old. Well, hey, since we're here, why don't we go ahead and just stop in for a beer real quick on his way home? So he says he will be able to come on the show for a little while, but probably not stay for the whole thing, unless of course we want him to get divorced. Which we don't. So we will see Doc for a short time next Sunday.
And there's a Friday show.
And there's a lunch meet.
Yeah, there you go.
So everybody tune in for that.
Me and Jack are looking forward to it. Everyone else is groaning and looking how to disable their Wi-Fi.
All right, hopefully you'll all get archives tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to everybody for coming out to Downtown Joe's in Napa. We'll see you next week.
Cherry stout, yeah, you know what I am talking about. But don't you give me that American crude, boys, I want a real home brew. Home brew, don't you really love that?